Okay, we're gonna try to make this happen. It's been a rough few days here, with some serious equipment problems. Plus, I've been under the weather, but good to have you guys back on the program. As you can see, we're going to be asking an interesting question tonight. With the election coming up, there are no shortage of GOP candidates suggesting that Biden is soft on crime and that the Democrats as a whole are soft on crime, essentially suggesting that by electing Republicans, you could reduce the crime rates in America. So the question we're going to be obviously tackling tonight is how could that happen if President Biden were to not run in 2024 or lose to President Trump or another Republican candidate? How could Republicans reduce crime? You're hearing it all over the place. Inner city crime. President Trump has suggested that the president should have the power to send in the National Guard to crime-ridden cities like Chicago, despite whatever the governor wishes may have been. Essentially override the governor and send in the National Guard to reduce crime. I see in the comments right off the bat, Shane Bell 677 said, I'm a Republican and I'll be honest with you. Shane, feel free to elaborate in the comments or you can come in the box. I want to know if you lean right, what could the Republicans do to reduce inner city crime? We're talking about crime in cities being tackled from a White House official. Essentially, President Trump, being a White House official, is suggesting, because Nick knows, think about it, they're blaming Biden for rising crime rates around America. And that's what we're trying to find out is, what does Biden have to do with crime in Chicago, Baton Rouge, Memphis, St. Louis? What could President Biden do to reduce crime in those areas? Looking in the comments here, watching while on hurricane watch. Yeah, Florida is no joke there, Mama. I've been watching what's going on down in Florida myself. Looks like tomorrow's going to be the day they get hit. It looks pretty bad. Everyone I know in Florida, by the way, not only are they all MAGA, which I have no problem, I love my MAGA, but they're all staying. I have not talked to one Florida resident that has decided to leave Florida ahead of that hurricane. You right-wingers, particularly Floridians, you guys are hardcore. I'm seeing a lot of Floridians that are like, I'm staying, it ain't coming. It almost sounds like the COVID vaccine. It'll go away by April. You know what I'm saying. All right, and I see it, and you said you're staying too. Yeah, so I don't know. But looking in the comments real quick, because we're asking, how can the GOP reduce inner city crime? Now, Wagging Tail Racing is saying increase the length of sentences. Isn't that what we did with the war on drugs? Wasn't that exactly what we did? Is that we had a hellified amount of crime revolving around the drug trade. We not only increased the length of sentences, we came up with a whole list of new crimes. How did that work in reducing drug use, drug sale, drug distribution in America? The point I'm trying to make is, would longer sentences be the magic bullet? The one-all, end-all? Is that how you reduce crime? A lot of these folks in these inner city areas, some of them 16, 17, 18 years old are committing drive-bys. I mean, what was their prior offense? If you're 16, I mean, how long are you going to be locking up juveniles? A lot of these folks, like these smash and grabs, where they go into a clothing store, designer clothing store, they break the window and they go in there in a mob of 50 people. Start grabbing purses, fur coats, designer labels, whatever. What type of time are you going to give a 14, 15-year-old that got caught stealing a bunch of purses? You're going to give them 10 years in prison? This is what we're talking about. When you're talking about increasing the length of sentences, this is what we're talking about. So how can the GOP reduce inner city crime? Is it just simply by loading up the prisons, loading up the jails with more bodies? Does that work? and I've talked about this before in the program, is because fact is, when it comes to incarceration, I believe it's 86%. 86% of those incarcerated will one day be released. So if you increase the sentences, what do we typically have coming out of our penal system? Are they known to get better when they're in jail? Let's say you give a person, instead of 5 years, you give them 10 years. Do our ex-convicts come out of jail typically in a better state than they went in? This is a question we can ask now. We don't need to speculate. We can ask that now. There are a hell of a lot of people who go to prison. When they come out, uh, on average, are they better citizens? You think if you give them 5 or 6 more years in prison, they would be more of a more responsible citizen? So that's the question we're asking, because even if you give them longer sentences, they're still going to get out one day. So you can't give everyone life in prison for every single crime they commit. I mean, it goes back to the original statement. Who's going to pay for it? Who's going to pay for all of this additional incarceration once you start filling up jails? Because, as you stated, give everybody a longer sentence. So now you're going to make the incarceration numbers skyrocket. Keep in mind, right now, with the liberals allegedly being softer on crime, we still have very high incarceration numbers in this country compared to most of the free world. And if you listen to the folks on the right, they're suggesting that it should be considerably higher because they believe too many people are getting out now. Who's going to pay for all that? Let me go to the box. Duke Reload. That sounds like a new program. And you say very soft, Nivea America. Well, in the Republican states, St. Louis, Baton Rouge, Jacksonville, Florida, there's a hell of a lot of crime, and those are all Republican governors. So if the Democrats are soft on crime and being tougher on crime would solve the problem, why is Memphis and St. Louis often the murder capitals of the world? Duke, Reload. Hey, good evening. Different name? Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, TikTok
Okay,
decided to take my old. Yeah, TikTok decided
okay.
to take my old page with over 6,000 followers, so I had to come back with another page.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear. Man, TikTok, the censorship on this platform is so great. I'm dying to find another avenue. I am dying. I mean, I'm actually posting other, sometimes I
Man,
do the duets and things like that. They threaten my account for duets. It's like, what the hell?
there's others. It's just that the platform that TikTok's created is so addictive. They're so good that it's hard to
Right.
match it.
Yeah, I don't
Listen,
know. Go ahead.
my history, of course, my history is okay. Ex-army veteran, ex-police officer, and I'm also a convicted felon. Okay,
That's a hell of
so
a
I'm
path.
also an independent conservative.
That's a
I
hell of a
know.
path you've been on.
I'm an independent conservative, independent conservative that supports Trump. Okay, right now.
Okay.
So you're
Wow.
asking the question, and I'm gonna say we have a here in Texas, especially in Houston, anti against the police. Let's not build no more prisons type attitude. Even though we
Okay.
have a Republican governor. Um, now,
Why is that
the
sentiment
issue
there
is
in
not
Texas? Why
longer
do
sentences.
why do they have that sentiment in Texas?
Where I say not building no more jails because Houston right now is a sanctuary city ran by Democrats, and
Okay.
but our governor is Republican, so it's a clash. It's a clash of the two. Our crime is rampant here because the Democratic leaders said we're not building no more jails, and so what happened was the jails got filled up, so now they're releasing violent criminals back into the streets uh, with the bond reform. So
Wait a
now
minute.
crime rate is raised
Aren't
through the roof.
jails? But wait, aren't jails, prisons in particular, aren't they state owned?
Yeah, I'm talking about the difference between the Democratic jails here before they reach the prisons, and the Republicans ran state, which is okay with prisons. There's still prisons. People don't want prisons in their backyard, in their state, in their cities. They
Right,
don't.
right.
A prison takes up, even though it employs a lot of people, they don't want that element of what happens if that one criminal gets out, like one did, escape. They don't want that in their backyard. They don't.
Okay.
Um, the the answer is not so much giving longer sentences. The first answer of tackling crime is to tackle the mental health issue. Okay,
Well,
I'm
then
from
I have to ask
1963.
you. Wait, okay, let me ask. I'll let you finish. But in regards to tackling mental health issues, you need some form of medical care, or you need some form of medical insurance to be able to access folks for health care. And Texas was one of the states that was prominently against Obamacare. They did not want government provided health care. So if you are poor and you have a mental health issue in the state of Texas, what do you do?
Well, I'm old enough to remember when they used to have mental hospitals. Uh, and what happened was when they closed the mental hospitals, they dumped the responsibility on the police. Now the
Okay.
police has got to come out and handle mentally challenged people, which takes away from them doing proactive policing. Okay, so now mom and dad, who's getting older, having to deal with their mentally ill son. Okay, that's a strain on the police. Yet
Okay.
and still, people now have ran with this defund the police movement, and now the police is extremely strained. Okay,
Yeah, well, wait a minute. Wait
uh,
a minute.
go
I've
ahead, go
heard
ahead.
the
What you trying to
wait,
say?
okay. I've heard the phrase defund the police, but outside of lip service, what departments, what states, what Democratic cities have actually done that? That's really not have taken hold anywhere. There's very
Houston,
few departments, less than
Houston,
a handful,
Houston.
that have done anything in regards to defunding the police.
Look, look at the state of. Okay, we'll go through Texas, Houston, Austin, Dallas. A lot of them have. Okay, they look on the surface. They're saying, "Oh, we're funding the police. This is what we're doing. We're giving after school care. We're giving more lighting. All that. But the police
Well, they
commissioners and the
dramatically did
police
it on Tony by
chiefs are
Channel 9
asking,
the money.
we need more police. Who's
Okay,
that?
so when they
Oh,
okay,
we need more
you're
police,
suggesting.
and they're denied.
Go ahead.
There's a lag time. There's a
Yeah, I don't
lag
know what's
time in
going
the
on.
in the
Yeah.
video.
Okay. Well, I'll say this: when you say they have defunded the police, what have police lost that they had before the defund the police movement?
Personnel. They need more police officers, more
Okay.
training, more personnel. Right here in Houston, right here in Houston, we have Chief Ed Gonzalez, all the county constables, the school police. School police is now very important. They are just as important as the people out on the street. They need more officers to patrol these schools nowadays. Okay, to be armed, well armed. You never know when another active shooter may come in to. I should have said shooter on TikTok. May come into the police.
Yeah.
So the police needs to be heavily trained. A lot more presence, but the Democratic cities who saying no, no, we don't need it. What we need is more aftercare school for youth. It's not working, you know. Not especially when we have a backlog from COVID. We have a backlog from here in Houston. Our hurricane knocked out our jails and stuff, and now the bail reform where they're letting violent criminals go. How do you tackle? Your question is how does the GOP reduce crime rates in inner cities?
Yes.
More policing.
Okay, so
More policing. We need more. I know people don't like police.
why not?
Because the narrative that started with Obama all the way down is that police is bad. Police is out to kill black people. Okay. Police is, and now it has expanded that the narrative now is that the police are out to, all the boogeyman, they're out to get, look, everybody now got a cell phone since, especially since Derek Chauvin has been sent to prison. Now everybody's like, aha, see there, I told you the police, the evil vanilla people, cops are out to get all the black people. And so now you see all over TikTok and everything, do not comply with the officer, which leads to a rash of smash and grabs, a rash of, there
Okay,
is
but I gotta
no
ask you this.
respect for
Okay,
police right now.
okay, but I gotta ask you this in regards to complying with the police. Um, any defense attorney worth their salt will tell you the same thing. And I have to ask you yourself personally, do you believe it's in the best interest of a citizen to comply with the police if they have constitutional rights that say they don't, such as their right to remain silent, no searches without a warrant, things like that? Do you think it's in the best interest of the police or the citizen to waive their rights and comply with police? Is it in their best interest?
Let me tell you something, okay? My daddy taught me back in the 60s, okay? You could be right or you could be smart, okay? You may have all the rights not to. And I see a bunch of these TikTok anti-cop lawyer type people on there saying, look, confronting cops, I got the right to do this. But is it smart to not comply with the officer?
Why is it not
The
smart?
thing is that if the cops are, listen, if the cops are so evil, if the cops is out to get you, why do you want to disregard the commands of an officer who may put your life at risk? Even if you do comply and things go bad for you, you at least got some recourse for your family to say, look, we need to go head on and file against this officer. You're not going to win that battle against the officer. You're just not. You're not. So the best thing you could do, and I know, see, a lot of black people do not like this because they hate authority. Okay. Even if they think that I got the right, I know the law better than the officer, I'm not going to comply. I have the right. No, you don't. When the officer is on the scene, he is the authority. Okay.
Okay,
Even if he's
let me
100% in
interrupt
the
you.
wrong,
Okay,
comply with him.
okay, let me respond to that. When you start talking about what's smart and what's not, exercising your constitutional rights should never be viewed as dumb. If you have a right to say you don't want to have your car searched without a warrant, you should not be viewed negatively or mistreated because you exercised a right that's constitutional. I would tell you this: what you're saying illustrates a strong need for why police need to be retrained. Is because you're basically saying if he don't do what the police want him to do, even if it violates his rights, he's making a dumb move. When in reality, the police should know that their job is to protect your rights, not violate them. I'll give you. I got to move it up. I'll give you the last word, man. Go ahead.
Listen, listen, listen to what you just said. Okay, see, this is why the citizenry, just like yourself, do not know or understand the law, and it is designed because you're ignorant of the law. For number one, you do not need a warrant to search your car. You do not need a warrant to search your vehicle.
Okay.
Driving laws are different than a home. Okay, so when the officer comes, or say if the officer comes to your home and you say, I need to search your home or whatever, comply with the officer. If your constitutional rights are violated, fight it in court. You don't fight the officer.
You think people have the
Hey, let me
money
ask you
to
this question
hire?
before
Wait
you
a
go. Let me
minute.
ask you this question before you go. Let me ask you this question before you go. Let me ask you this question.
Sure.
Would George Floyd been alive if he just complied with the officers and sat in the back seat.
100%. And Derek Chauvin would have just killed the next person that did not comply with him. But you're right, he would have been alive.
Now you're speculating. Now you're speculating. You're going on speculation now. Okay, by Derek Chauvin. Okay, because Derek Chauvin is not the only one on trial. Okay, listen, I'm saying what George Floyd should have did. Don't add Derek Chauvin in because Derek Chauvin was not the arresting officer. Okay, the other two officers was the arresting officer, the black guy and the other white guy.
Okay, here's the point I'm making is this. When you look at the amount of resistance that George Floyd put up, and you look at the amount of, I guess, mayhem that was bestowed upon him, it's hard to believe that is the first time or the only time an officer would do something like that. If you're capable of doing that from the little resistance you're getting from George Floyd, that's in you. You're capable of doing it to someone else too. I don't believe that would have been a one-off thing.
Did George Floyd comply? Did George Floyd comply? Did you see the whole video? Did George Floyd comply with the officer?
No, he did not.
There it is. This is how you avoid situations with officers. Comply with the officer.
True.
You have a better chance of living than not. Okay.
100% agree.
How do you solve these crimes? Educate the public how to comply with officers. Number 2, increase the police officers. Hey, you have a nice night, bro.
Hey, you too, man. I'm sorry about the delay. I would have loved to talk to you more. It's a good conversation, but yeah, apparently there's a delay. All right, I'm moving on though.
I gotta go start my life.
Real quick, in regards to what he was saying, I do agree that folks like George Floyd, Jayland Walker, and a hell of a lot of other, Shantae Wright, a lot of African Americans that have lost their lives would be alive if they did comply. However, non-compliance should not be a death sentence. If I take off and run from the police and they shoot me in the back, yeah, if I didn't run, I wouldn't have got shot. But that doesn't excuse the shooting. that doesn't give you the right, just because I did something you didn't like, that doesn't give you the right to escalate it all the way up to a death sentence. So at that point, bringing up what the suspect did when you overreacted to that level is kind of a moot point. I mean, the kid got fought back. He didn't want to be put in the police car. It's called resisting arrest. They're trained on how to handle a suspect that is resisting arrest. He didn't follow any of his training. Nothing in his training told him to sit on the guy's back for 9 minutes, and his superior testified in court against Derek Chauvin and said that nothing he was doing was part of their training. So bringing up the fact that it all started with George Floyd resisting, I got to disagree, because I point out that there are training tactics for what you do when a suspect is resisting, and Derek Chauvin did not follow any of those. I'm going back to the box. Jewel Goddess Amp. Jewel Goddess. Let me see if this works without any delay. Jewel, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, sir.
Absolutely. Good to talk to you. So we're asking the question tonight, how can the GOP reduce inner city crime rates? Because they're always pointing to liberals and suggesting that the crime has gotten higher under liberals. So if we had a GOP president, GOP Senate, GOP House, how could they reduce crime rates in the inner cities?
Honestly, I got a controversial little flip on this stuff. Okay. I don't think any particular party can control it, because guess what? Let's go to the 13th Amendment. Slavery was abolished, but people can become enslaved and be free labor if you're imprisoned.
Yeah, 100% agree.
And people that are in the inner cities, guess who mostly are in the inner cities? Poor people, and there's African Americans there. And guess what? There was a headline today that said Black people are being falsely convicted of serious crimes at an alarming rate.
Well, I gotta challenge that. When they say African Americans are being, or minorities are being convicted at an alarming rate, alarming is an opinion. three people could be alarming to one reporter, whereas 3,000 could be alarming to another one. So that doesn't tell us a lot, but we do know from groups like the Innocence Project that that the African American community represents the lion's share of folks who are exonerated for crimes they didn't commit and wrongfully convicted. So I can see it somewhat. So you're saying they can't do anything about this then?
There's not much that they can do because laws and regulations, just like locks, only keep honest people honest.
Good point. So, what do you think about Trump suggesting that the president should be able to send in a National Guard to violent cities like Chicago, irrespective of whatever the governor wants? Pretty much override the governor and just send the National Guard in the inner cities.
I think that the states should control what's going on, and the mayors and so on should be controlling what's going on within their jurisdiction. I think that we don't want the president to have too much power.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you say that because, like with the rolling back of Roe v. Wade, everyone is suggesting it's returning rights back to the states and they're not for big government. But here, this is a case where they're for the president going in and doing this. But I seem to agree with you, Joel, that I don't see how a White House official could reduce crime in, say, Memphis or Chicago. I don't see because folks are blaming Biden for rising crime rates. I just can't see what he has done to increase crime in inner cities.
Yeah, I don't see it either. I think it's just pointing the finger at somebody. And
what about more police? What about folks who are suggesting more police?
The problem is, I think that there's already too much police power.
What do you mean? Elaborate.
We have so many police out there, and we don't even know how to police the police. They're going out and they're doing their thing. I mean, there's so many people that are becoming unalived because somebody gets trigger happy.
Yeah. So you believe that the police have already overstepped their own power?
Yes.
How do you rein that in?
I honestly believe that most of the people that are incarcerated actually have mental health issues. That's where it stems from. Wow. And healthcare is a big, big problem in this country. Something needs to be done about it.
Well, it goes back to the same argument you hear time and time again, is that who's going to pay for it? Because the right, like a good example, anytime you have a mass shooting, the liberals bring up it's too many guns in the country. And the right states that the guns are not the problem. And we understand that the right disagrees with the left-wing prophecy that it's not guns. But you can see what the liberals believe is the problem in liberal cities. They make all these gun laws. The right, on the other hand, says the same thing you're talking about. It's mental health. But when you go to right-wing cities, they're doing nothing to address mental health at all. So, I guess I'd have to ask you, based on what you're saying, do you support defunding the police?
I don't like the whole premise of that because we need the police.
Okay. But what does it mean? What does that mean to you? When somebody says you're a candidate or a politician, say defund the police, what does that mean to you?
Defunding the police means to a certain degree, take funds away and allocate it elsewhere.
Okay. But that doesn't tell you how or where they're going to take funds away. It could simply mean cutting back the size of the force by 20%. I mean, if you just say taking funds away from what?
I honestly believe with the police problem in this country, they need to be better trained, and they need to get people that are trained in mental health stuff and actually having an understanding of, you can't look at one particular person and assume something. Like with the COVID situation, people saying, oh, well, it's a China virus, it's a China virus. And saying that, it made people not like Asian people and actually unalived some Asian people because they blamed them.
Well, you understand blaming that virus on China came right from the very top, if you know what I mean. So,
Yeah,
are you suggesting that Trump's rhetoric itself has been responsible for the loss of life in the Asian community?
yes.
Wow. Well, you do understand he is the leading contender for potentially returning back in office in 2024.
I do, but there are certain things that he said when some particular people out there hear those things, they go crazy and they run with it. And when they hear, oh well, a certain country is at fault or a particular race is at fault for something, guess what? They're going to attack those people, and that's not fair. It's a
So, so
generalized
let's go ahead. So
thing.
let's assume I was going to say this. So let's assume that Trump was to be reelected in 2024. What type of America you think we'd be dealing with?
I think it's going to be some anarchy to a certain degree.
How so? How so? What do you mean anarchy? How so?
I think there's going to be some people that flip out so bad with him being back in there that it's going to be civil war potentially in this country.
If President Trump returns to office, you see civil disturbance in the country with him as president?
Yes, I do.
But wouldn't MAGA be very happy? They wouldn't have a reason to rise up. Are you saying the liberals would provoke a civil war?
I think that there would be people that were so strongly affected. People that are on the mega side can be very in your face. The liberals can be in your face. And what happens when you get two people that are face to face? They're going to go and rumble. They're going to be throwing fists.
Wow. Well, because I'm looking at it, if Trump was to get reelected, I couldn't see MAGA doing anything but celebrating. So if you're suggesting civil disturbance, I mean, in all honesty, it would have. And you said people who feel like they were affected by it. Based on what you're saying, it would have to be the liberals provoking the war.
I think that there are some people that would be like, haha, he's back in. What are you going to do about it? And then that's going to aggravate people that have very strong feelings on the other aisle. And then it's going to
Yeah, but
go
if,
back.
if someone says, Trump is back in office, ha ha ha, f your feelings, what are you going to do about it? If you do something violent, that's on you. It's because at the end of the day, what they said is just words. If you take up on a physical action in response to ha ha, what you're going to do about it, then that's the provocation is coming from that side because now you're acting on simple words.
Beyond just what the country feels, I'm concerned about Trump's policies and beliefs. And he has a lot of campaign promises that he throws out, but I don't think he follows through. And
Give me some examples.
Biden's
Give me some
joke.
examples.
Biden,
Give me some.
he promised stuff having to do with international level stuff that he was gonna, help with international, exchanges and such. I didn't really see things go too well in that direction.
Okay. You think Biden is a better choice?
Biden's a joke. He belongs in the
So,
old folks' home.
so are you independent or what side of the aisle you typically lean towards?
I'm actually in between.
Okay, so you're independent. So I gotta ask, 2020,
I'm
who
not
did you go with?
independent. I pick whoever I feel is best for the country.
That's kind of like an independent, right? You're in the middle.
But I've never voted independent.
Okay. So 2020, who did you go for?
I don't talk about that.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Okay. Well, listen. Is this our first time chatting, Jewel?
No, this is the second time. We
Okay.
talked about Trump before, and in regards to all the money that he lost and being bankrupt quite a few times.
Well, before I let you go, you suggested Biden is a joke. Give me some reasons why you don't see Biden as leading the country properly. You don't think he's leading America in the right direction.
He can't even finish a sentence. I wouldn't trust the man to do my taxes.
So you're not happy at all right now. If 2024 comes back down to Biden and Trump, would you even cast a ballot in that election?
I don't know. I'd have to scratch my head on that one because I think that we're not really having too many good candidates right now on the ballot.
Okay, what do you think? I'm gonna give you a couple more people before I let you go. Some younger guys. Ron DeSantis. What did you think of him?
I'm not super favorable, but
Gavin
there's
Newsom.
nobody
Gavin
I like
Newsom out of
too much.
California. What about Gavin Newsom out of California?
That makes my stomach turn.
Pete Buttigieg, former South mayor of South Bend, Indiana. Pete Buttigieg.
I would need to read more up before I speak about that one.
Senator Ted Cruz. You drive a hard bargain. Okay, I got to move it on, Jewel. Good talk. You're being honest. I like it. Come on back
You
to
know
me
what?
anytime.
There's no other way to be but honest.
Okay, fair point. I like that. All right, got to move it on. Talk to you next time. Absolutely. She drives a hard bargain. She was not a fan of Ron DeSantis, who, by the way, is a huge favorite among the Republicans. Not a fan of Gavin Newsom at all out of California. Hey, listen, California is not being ran that great, so I can understand that. Not a fan of Pete Buttigieg, who the liberals like. The liberals tend to think favorably of South Bend Mayor Pete Buttigieg, and not a fan of Ted Cruz, which, yeah, he's a bomb thrower, so I can kind of understand that. I wanted to throw a few more at him, but I got to move it on. So let me go right back to the comments before I go into the box. Defund the police equals demilitarize and make them pay their own lawsuits. Gonzo, 100% agree. In regards to the lawsuits, I've said this before, but I'll go right back to the box real quick. And by the way, tap the screen, get your boy up to 10,000 likes. I've been under the weather, so I haven't done a live in a few days. I appreciate the fact that a couple hundred of you guys are rolling with me. I do appear to have a few folks in here from the Adam Cray side of the aisle. Appreciate you guys here as well. I saw a few Adam Crays for president. Jasmine, some of you folks who like the individual. Jasmine goes by the name of They. This individual is wanting to run for president in 2024 under the campaign promise of abolishing the police, which I think is the dumbest campaign slogan ever. But nevertheless, I welcome all of Adam Cray's people in here as well. Civil discourse. You get in the box, I'll let you talk. In fact, let me not talk and go straight back to the box. There's a bunch of you guys in here. CMB, Karate. Welcome back to the program, a friend of the program, CMB.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Tell me how the GOP could reduce inner city crime. What could they do? Memphis, Chicago, St. Louis. What could the president do for that?
Well, it's all a snowball effect. The reason why those major cities are crime is just running rapid is because anytime you have the economy going to shit and people, making less money and spending more money to live and to survive, automatically you're going to have dishonest people that don't know how to do anything else but to go rob.
Okay, fair enough. So how was the economy under the former president, President Trump, number 45?
Well, I think anybody would have to agree. I mean, would have to agree that the economy was a lot better situation when, 3 years ago.
True. Now, how was the crime rates under President Trump, number 45?
And crime rate, and they go hand in hand, because the crime rate, isn't as bad, because if the economy is good, people are living good. I mean, yeah, you still have you're going to have robberies, and you're going to have those, you know, you had all those, oh, you got, you know what I'm saying? Those, I mean, you,
Trump was complaining about crime rates throughout America the whole time he was in office. He was bragging and he gave us some of the best gave us the best economy shit in our lifetimes. If you listen to President Trump, best job numbers and his unemployment numbers were stellar. However, even Trump himself was suggesting that inner city crime was off the chain. Chaz in Portland, you still had Chicago off the hook. LA was still LA and New York was still New York. The crime rates under President Trump were not that great.
DC. But DC was still DC. The thing about it is, I mean, you're, like I said, you're always going to have crime. You know, I mean, you're going to have crime no matter how much police is on duty or how much, you know, how good the economy is. But at the same time, it's going to get worse when the economy gets worse because it's just a fact.
Okay, but I'm countering your point where you suggested that with a good economy, crime goes down. And I'm trying to illustrate to you that if you look at the crime rate under President Trump, who claims his economy was certainly better than Obama's, the crime rate under President Trump did not drop significantly compared to Obama. It was a very high crime rate in this country under Trump as well.
I can tell you that it isn't what it is now. I can guarantee you that.
I get that, but I'm simply saying that we had a Republican president for 4 years, and there was no huge drop in the crime rate.
The president. I mean, the Republican president. It's not like he's God and he's going to make everybody not do bad things or whatever. I mean, he could only implement certain things and have certain amount of police on duty and you know, do what he can. I mean, he's not going to go into the hoods and stop the robberies and stuff.
Exactly. So folks are blaming President Biden for rising crime rates, which is why you and I are talking. And I'm asking, if we get rid of Biden and put in a Republican president that you just clearly stated he's not going to go into hoods and stuff like that, why are they making it sound like if you get rid of Biden and put in a Republican president, crime is going to go down?
Well, because unfortunately, the economy right now is the worst that's been in 40 years. And the person who's in charge right now is you know, the prime cause of it. And but that's why people are like, well, let's get him out of here. You know, maybe let's get him out of here. Whoever we put in office is going to be got to be better.
Okay. By the way, folks, 10,000 likes. Make that happen. All these patriots and liberals in here, tap your screen. CMB, I get what you're saying about Biden and the economy. Even yours truly, have suggested that the economy under Trump was certainly better than Biden, at least right now. But I will tell you this, you and I have already agreed that the economy is not parallel to the crime rate. You've already agreed that the economy was much better under Trump, but the crime rate was not much lower. So you're going back to the economy again when we've already agreed that's not going to have an effect on crime.
No, but it was lower. I mean, I don't want to come across saying that it wasn't lower. It was lower than what it is now. I'm sure it is.
You think that under Trump, the economy was better than under Obama?
Yes. Yes.
And what did that do what did the crime rate under Trump look like compared to Obama?
You know, somewhat like hand in hand. Just Trump, you know, Trump's economy was getting better, so things were getting better. So, I mean, everything looked on the up and up.
Well, if the crime was going on the up and up under Trump, why was he complaining about inner city crime so much?
No, I'm saying that the world itself, I mean, the U.S. was going, you know, the economy, everything was getting better, you know, with Trump. So automatically, as things get better, everything seems to kind of get better.
Okay, well, let me present this to you from Dolly Lillian in the comments. How do you handle the claim by the FBI that hate crimes were growing exponentially under President Trump? And my last caller brought that up also, that Trump's language was being blamed by the FBI for increasing crime in this particular category. How do you view that?
Well, I think that we're down here in Florida, and we've got a hurricane that's just a little bit north of us, but you keep coming in and out or whatever. Tell me again, what was the question?
The question is, it was posed by Dolly Lillian in the comments that under President Trump, hate crimes grew exponentially. The FBI verified that under President Trump, due to his language, hate crimes in America were skyrocketing.
Well, that goes hand in hand with all the riots that we had. And
how does that go hand? How are those two things
that's
linked?
All. I mean, that's all crime. I mean, when they're burning down cities and they're burning down buildings and they're burning down storefronts and mom and pop places, or they're robbing stores and this and that. I mean, that all goes into the crime.
So you're suggesting that if Black Lives Matter sets a CVS on fire or robs TVs out of Best Buy, that's a hate crime?
Well, it's to me, crime is crime. I don't care if you want to call it hate.
No. I mean, they have hate crime designated for a reason. Crime is not crime. Hate crime is a different crime. It has been designated as such. When they say hate crimes are rising under President Trump due to his rhetoric, what does that mean to you?
That's just someone's personal opinion.
The FBI?
Yeah, the FBI. And the FBI, again, the FBI isn't like, I mean, it's just like well, your main discussion was about the police and about people defunding the police and whatnot. In everything you're going to have good guys, and then there's a few bad apples, and that's unfortunate, like that in the FBI as well. So,
okay.
You can't.
You would. I mean, do you not believe that when the FBI, by the way, when they said that it was in 2017 and Trump was in control of the FBI, so it was literally his own FBI suggested that his rhetoric was causing. But do you not believe that the FBI makes statements that are actually based on some form of research? You just think it's just an opinion?
For the most part, I wish that to be correct, yes. But what the things that we've seen in the last couple of years with the FBI, even the last 2 years when Trump was in office and whatnot, and how they still carry on and do certain things. I don't have the respect for them that I used to.
Well, and that will lead to the question: if Trump was going to surround himself with the best and brightest and drain the swamp, why did he not fix the FBI? You obviously don't trust the FBI, and you didn't trust the FBI even under his administration. That's his FBI. Why didn't he not fix that?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to make excuses why things weren't done at certain times or whatever, but I mean, it's the same thing as, him not actually putting Hillary Clinton in jail like he said he would.
Okay. So you would suggest that Trump dropped the ball in protecting the country in regards to the integrity of the FBI then, right? He dropped the ball.
Well, ¿Qué quieres? Going to say was that Trump didn't really, I don't see him dropping the ball. I saw them throwing 10 basketballs in his side, and him just trying to juggle them all and still try to keep things in order. I
That's the
mean,
job of the president. You're going to be you. Every president is going to juggle. You got world issues, national issues. I mean, that's the job of the president. You're making it sound like
well,
he can't handle the typical
he
job.
had the world issue and the national issues. He had at peace because we weren't at war. You know, other countries respected us, the United States, like they should have, and and he maintained that. Meanwhile, he was being dragged around.
Well,
He's the reason why we replenished. We had all the military and replenished all of the artillery and all the stuff that we had, and
how do
then
you?
and then when we
Okay,
pulled out of
I got to move
Afghanistan,
it on, but
we
I'll give
left
you the.
half of it there.
Okay, okay, I got to move it on, but I'll give you the last word. When you say that other nations respected us, how do you respond to Trump going to London and they got this huge blimp of him looking like a crying baby, or the Vicente Fox, the governor of, or better yet, the former president of Mexico, literally cursing him out, or Trudeau in Canada saying all kinds of choice words about President Trump? How do you explain all of that if you're suggesting that nations respected us?
Well, because the big ones did have respect for us. He went to North Korea that no other president had done, and actually, had sit down with Kim. The guy from the Soviet Union, he respects Trump. That's why they were
Okay,
asking Trump to bail that female player out, because they knew that he had a good relation with them. And to be honest with you, I don't think we would have had. I don't think that Ukraine would have been under war if Trump had still been in office.
okay, I
But let me
point out.
bring up a point. When you finish, let me get a last word in there about
Okay.
the
All right.
police.
I'll just say this and you can finish. But I pointed out Trudeau of Canada in a baby blimp in London. The UK and Canada are two of our biggest allies, and you countered with Kim Jong Un in North Korea. Go ahead. I'll give you the last word.
Well, your biggest thing was the GOP and the defunding of the police, right?
Yes.
And my biggest thing is, and they're primarily, I think there's more whites than there are blacks that just try to push the envelope to the limit with what they think is the law, and how they think that they should speak to officers when they get pulled over, and barely crack their window and say, no, I don't need to talk to you, I don't need to tell you my name, all that shit that you see all over TikTok. To me, that's just, you're just asking for trouble.
Fair
And
enough.
if you think you're Mr. Know-it-all or whatever, and just because you're filming, you can be disrespectful to a cop. Well, don't expect him to show you respect, because those who want respect give respect.
All right. Appreciate you coming through, CMB. Anytime. And good luck down there, man. Take care of yourself in Florida. What area in Florida are you in?
I'm just north of Miami. I'm in Boca
Oh,
Raton.
damn.
Yeah.
So you're right. You're right there when it first touches in. Then what time are you
Well, no,
expected to see? You're
it's
going to see the outer bands of it.
Yeah, we'll get the outer bands, and we've got some serious heavy rain and some major flooding. But DeSantis did a good job. They've already canceled all the schools and done everything that he's supposed to. Why are you laughing?
I'm
I had
just
to tell
laughing
you
because
that.
you threw that. I'm laughing because you threw that curveball with DeSantis in there. I got nothing but love for you, CMB. Take care, man. I look forward to hearing from you in the future if you and your house are still there. Come on back through anytime.
God bless. Will do.
Absolutely. He said something I wanted to comment on before I start talking to him about the hurricane. If it comes up, I'll go back to it. But let me go back to the box. D1, 2, 3. Good evening to you, D1. What's on your mind this evening? We're talking about the GOP somehow reducing crime rates in the inner city. How can they make that happen?
They can't. It's like you was
that was short and sweet, to the point.
like you was speaking earlier. It has a lot to do with economics. And one fact that people are forgetting, like real facts. that when they had the automatic or the assault weapons ban, I mean, mass shootings dropped. When Obama was president, crime dropped 16%. When crime started
Is that
rising,
true?
when Trump became, yes.
So you're suggesting that Trump, under President Trump, crime actually went up?
Yeah, you can Google it.
Wow.
You can
Well, I'm not
you
going
can
to get
Google it.
anything by with this audience talking about Google. They don't even believe Google is accurate. Man, to go to
And like,
DuckDuckGo or some shit.
yeah, y'all giving Trump too much credit for the economy. He inherited that economy from Obama. Biden got the
Well,
jobs back.
but would you
What?
not agree that the economy, even though he inherited a good economy under from Obama, I agree with that. But Trump economy, it improved while he was in office,
He
right?
screwed it up. He screwed it up.
Huh?
He
How
screwed the
so?
economy up with his
How so?
incompetent response to COVID. He lost 10 million jobs. He basically put profits, or he put the economy over human lives.
You're talking about
You know,
with keeping the
yeah,
country open during a pandemic.
yeah. Remember when they was protesting the mask in I believe Michigan, and he got on
Right.
Twitter, "I'm all with you."
So
The sad part about
how
it,
do you explain Florida? Florida remained open for the most part during COVID, and economically they have been a powerhouse. How do you explain them?
are you familiar with DeSantis fired the what is it, that Surgeon General or their main health department? They're hiding their numbers. They're
Well,
fudging
they
their
got
numbers.
rid of Governor Cuomo in New York for doing the same thing, and Cuomo didn't keep that state open, and they were hiding their numbers too.
Yeah, I'm they got rid of him because he couldn't keep his thing in his pants.
Yeah, but he was getting involved in COVID scandals as well. They were just overlooking him. But Cuomo in New York, his handling of COVID wasn't great either.
Yeah, but the sad thing about it, if Trump would have took care of COVID, he would have got reelected. That's the sad.
Even with the
Everything that
tweet.
happens to Trump, even with the treats, he would have got reelected.
So, in other words, you believe Trump, outside of his handling of COVID, was essentially a good president?
No, not at all.
Then why would he
You
have
remember
gotten reelected if he wasn't a good president?
because he's a con man, just like the guy you were just speaking. Trump could do no wrong. Everything he did was great. You remember the trade war? The
Yeah.
billions of dollars he lost. He put a lot of farmers in bankruptcy. Matter of fact, it went up 37%.
Yeah, but
And
you do understand there are people who are going to claim that Biden has put folks in bankruptcy too with this economy. That happens under every presidency.
when they gonna give him a chance to clean up Trump's mess? It's not
He's
Biden's mess. This is
he's
Trump's mess.
almost completed half of his term. At what point does his presidency become his own responsibility? He's been in office 2 years now.
Did you see what he got? Did you see what he passed? Got through with the CHIPS Act, the Infrastructure Act.
Yeah. Yeah. So at this point, the way the country is being ran is him. You can't still be blaming Trump, but taking credit for the legislation you're getting passed. So what you're trying to do is give Biden credit for his wins and blame all his blame all his failures on Trump. You can't do that at this point. He's been in office for 2 years. It's his country.
What can we blame on? What can we blame on Joe? What policy did he put in effect? Huh?
Well, if
what can you blame on Joe?
Well,
what policy did he put in effect?
Well, they're going to go
to make inflation get higher.
They're going to go straight for the pipeline. They're going to go for the way he's been ostracizing fossil fuels, pushing electric energy and things like that. They're going to go with the border. I mean, there's reasons. There are issues you can blame Biden on. What's going on down at the border? Do you think? Go ahead.
The Supreme Court shut down the pipeline, but are people aware that Trump signed a 2-year deal with OPEC to reduce the production of petroleum? Did anyone know that?
No, I have not heard that.
I'm gonna tell you like I tell everybody else.
By
Google it.
how much? But reduce it by what percentage?
I'm not too sure. I think it was like 80 million barrels, something like that. You can look it up. I'm quite sure that you can look it up.
And what was the purpose of him doing that?
He believed that gas was getting too cheap, believe it or not.
You
He
believe
also
that
ruined-
Trump deliberately created a bottleneck for fuel to intentionally raise the price of fuel?
Yes, it's well documented.
Whoa.
I
I
have
would
no
like to see
idea.
the documentation. I would like to see the documentation of that. That doesn't sound like Trump.
When you get when you end your live, go look up the OPEC deal.
Okay. I'm willing to give you the possibility that Trump signed an OPEC deal. What I'm questioning is the reasoning you're giving me for it, where his reasoning was to intentionally increase the price of fuel, which is, you see what's happening to Biden? One of the main issues or criticisms for Biden is how much we're paying at the pump. Why would Trump deliberately put himself in that crosshair? That doesn't make sense.
Well, let me see if I can find it real quick.
Yeah, there's got to be more to that. I mean, if he decided to reduce the amount of oil, maybe he didn't like the countries he was dealing with. Maybe he wanted to use our own reserves or something like that. But the idea that he wanted to deliberately increase fuel prices in America from a guy whose core tenet is America first, that doesn't make any sense.
Okay, here we go. And one other thing I wanted to mention to you. Oil nations propped by Trump reached deal to slash production. The deal will reduce output by 9.7 million barrels a day. White House significant cuts fall far short of what is needed to bring production in line with demand. And it's Washington time, October, what the hell is it? October, damn it. Washington Times. And I'm going to say one more thing, then I'm going to get off of here.
Sure.
You got me in trouble today.
What did I do? I haven't had a live since Thursday of last week. What did I do?
Peekaboo, Peekaboo sound familiar?
Oh, yeah, it sounds familiar. Yeah.
So I was engaged with another one of your listeners, and I was like, it's a racial slur. He wanted to say jigaboo.
Yeah.
And we went back and forth and back and forth. So I turn on and I got a community guideline violation.
What did they is it the words? What are they complaining about from TikTok? Why did they give you a violation?
I guess he lost the argument. We was going back and forth.
Oh. Okay. So
he
reported you.
He did. He was the only one I was in communication with. And then when I looked up my infraction, I appealed it, and it put me right back on.
Yeah, appealing that, you would win that. That doesn't sound like much.
Yeah, because I told a guy that basically he was like, well, Trump meant something else. No, I know what he meant. When have you ever heard someone call somebody a peekaboo? I know it's supposed to be when they was when slaves ran away, they used to hide in the night, and they used to hide behind trees. The only thing you can see with the whites of their eyes and the whites of their teeth. That's where the phrase came from.
Oh, I didn't know that. It's crazy how much stuff you hear like that, because I learned from TikTok, believe it or not, that social media platform here, what the term hush puppies. I never, the little bread things you get at Long John Silver's and places. They actually explained that the term hush puppies came from slaves who were escaping, when they would run and they would send the bloodhounds to catch escaped slaves, they would
They
throw
throw the
bread
hush
on the
puppy.
ground. They would throw bread on the ground for the dogs to eat and not continue chasing them. And that was to hush the puppies. And that's apparently where the term hush puppies came from. Is the slaves running and throwing bread on the ground so that they would. I had never heard that. It's amazing that some of the stuff you hear.
I
So
just learned something new
peekaboo,
today.
yeah,
I just learned that today. I never knew that.
yeah. And I never knew about peekaboo. So maybe next time we talk, I'll tell you what the word picnic came from. If you
Oh, I
don't
know what
Google that.
picnic means. I know what that means. They
Okay.
have a slave museum in Baltimore, and yeah, I know exactly what they used to pack their lunch
All
to
right.
see a nigga burn.
Why would you say
I
that?
don't know. It slipped out.
You just said. I gotta go.
Hopefully
You know the
nobody
story about
report me.
Hotel. All right, I gotta go. Oh, they gonna ban his ass for that. Oh my god, folks! I don't ban, I don't censor, I don't block. But watch your language, folks. They gonna ban that man for that. I don't know how. I don't know. Hopefully, he said it with a little bit less grammar or something. Maybe the censors didn't catch it, but if they catch him, they're gonna ban him for that. I'm not going to ban, censor, or block you for anything you say here. You can speak your mind here with yours truly all you want, regardless if you agree with me or disagree with me. I'll put you in the box and you plenty of time to speak. So understand, I don't censor you. Like Adam Crane, for instance, we talked about that earlier, but I don't block you and mute you and things like that. However, I don't have any control over the higher authority. So just be a little cautious. Some folks get in here and he got a little comfortable. Let me go to 52 Cent. I don't want to bloviate too much longer. There's a whole lot of you guys in here wanting to talk to your boy. Appreciate you rolling with me. 52 Cent, welcome back. Good evening.
All right, I'm going to tell you how to fix the crime nationwide. You ready?
Okay. Sure.
Quit making jail a homeboy meeting place.
How do you do that?
You make it miserable.
You realize how many people die in jail already?
I didn't do it. I'm telling you. Like that sheriff out in the desert that makes the inmates wear pink underwear and they're up at the crack of dawn and they work all day and they go to bed tired, start arresting the guards that are sneaking the drugs and stuff into the prisoners, search the guards as well as you search the prisoners. You isolate the prisons in the worst climate in the country. You make it to where nobody wants to go to one of those places.
So let me respond with this, because I'm quite well aware of Sheriff Joe Arpaio. He was about to get thrown in jail for some of his antics until Trump pardoned him. But I will ask you this: if making things tougher in prison is your method, 86% of folks who are incarcerated will one day get out. If we treat those folks like animals while they're in prison to make it, as you say, miserable as possible, what are you releasing? If you treat that person like an animal for the last 10 years, what do you expect to release? A choir boy?
Your exact comment is why the Liberal Party is horrible. You got to hold people responsible for what the hell they do. You've got to make them pay a price for what in the hell they do. You can't be a tree hugger and have law and order in this country. You can't do it.
Okay, so well, first of all, I will tell you this in regards to what you're saying. If you look around the world at the countries with the lowest recidivism rate, meaning incarcerated individuals. Yeah, if you look around the world, the free world, at countries with the lowest recidivism rate, none of them treat their prisoners like animals. The countries that you're talking about, like Russia, Mexico, and Saudi Arabia, and places like that, their inmates keep coming back. But the question I'm asking you is, if you treat a person like an animal, what do you expect to release? If I'm in jail for 10 years and you got me busting rocks and all of this stuff, what kind of a citizen do you think you're releasing?
Well, everybody wanted a timeout chair instead of a spanking. Nobody wanted the schools, which have control of your children more waking hours than the parents do during the school year. When they take the control from the school away from punishing your children that you apparently didn't raise right to begin with, it weakens the entire system.
So what are you saying? The school should be to beat your ass again? Go back to beating
Damn
their ass?
right they should. Do you see how some of these students treat these teachers? They'd ought to be able to whoop their ass right there in front of God and country.
Yeah, but then you go back in time and you find out, like, I got folks that grew up in the Catholic Church where they, the nuns would spank them and things like that, and they would say, I'm better for it. But then you find out what the Catholics were actually doing to children. And I have to ask, you really want to give them that amount of control back again?
Well, pedophilia is a whole different thing. They need to just castrate. They need to just castrate and put away those people. That's a group of people that they're trying to name what now? They're trying to give them a soft name.
If you castrated and put away those people, there would not be anyone left to lead the Catholic Church for several decades, because most of the upper members of that organization either participated in this stuff or actively hid and moved around priests that were involved in it. You would essentially have gotten rid of that whole religion.
Okay.
I'm just saying, that's all I'm saying is that they had the power you're talking about, and they were abusing it greatly.
What is it? Illinois just took away bail.
Yeah.
You can commit up to second-degree murder and get a ticket. Are you kidding me?
Well, let me explain that to you. Let me explain why I think they're doing that. If the police charge you with murder and they give you a bail, $100,000, $200,000, what happens if you didn't commit the murder and you can't afford the $200,000? What happens to you? If you are truly innocent and they gave you a bail that you couldn't pay, what happens to you?
You face a jury of your peers, and if you are proven innocent, you walk.
How long does it take from the time you were charged with murder to the time you face a jury of your peers?
How long do they lock up people they accuse of rioting against the country without charging them?
Wait. You're on a different topic. Let's go back to the murders. We'll go. You want to go to Black Lives Matter?
Let's cover it all.
Well, let's cover it all, but let's make sure we stay on one, and we'll go to the next one next. But if you're charged with murder, how long is it before you face a jury of your peers from the day they arrest you?
Well, the legal rulings in this country are to provide for a swift and speedy trial. So if you want to go back to that, maybe they need to set a guideline. If you're locked up, you got to be in court within 60 days, regardless.
Okay. You're going to prepare an entire murder trial and give a decent defense in 60 days?
The prosecution's going to put an entire murder trial together in 60 days too.
You're going to get a whole lot of people wrongfully convicted. But let's say they do what you suggested, 60 days. Okay, you got to go before a jury in 60 days. What is happening to that person during those 60 days if he can't afford bail?
He sits in prison just like anybody else. Maybe they should alleviate bail altogether.
But he hasn't been convicted of anything. Why is he sitting in prison? What happened to innocent until proven guilty? He hasn't been convicted or found guilty of anything. Why is he spending 60 days in jail?
Because somebody how old are you?
50.
All right, I'm almost 60.
Okay.
Do you know how many times I've been thrown in jail? Once for disorderly conduct when I was 18. I spent 45 minutes in there.
Okay, I got 0. But I don't get your point here.
The point is, if you lead a decent life, you don't have to worry about the legal system.
That's not true.
Sure it is.
So you're saying... Go ahead.
You're a black man. They claim that you're treated worse than I am because I have supposed white privilege or whatever the hell I've got. Okay, so you've not been locked up. What have you done different? Why have they accused you of murder?
Well, I'll tell you this, and that's a good question you asked. What have I done different? Although I've never spent a day in jail, never been arrested, I unfortunately cannot say that I have never been mistreated by police. What have I done?
I can't
different?
either.
Well, then you're making police look even worse, because I'm a black guy saying police have been treating me bad, and your response is, well, I'm white and they did it to me too. So you're not helping police. You're making it sound like they're twice as bad. So you're not helping.
Not every factory worker tightens the bolt to specification. Okay. Not every clerk at the convenience store greets you with a smile. I don't care what job you look at. Well, that's right. And so should bad cops.
Well, and they're not. And we both know
they should be.
Well, until that happens, this is why you have this problem. They're not. But the point I'm trying to make to you is that you asked me what is different about me and other folks who have had troubles. And my point is simple. When they were harassing me and mistreating me, and I've had cars searched against my will and been cussed out.
I've had cars searched too.
Okay, let me respond to your question. Telling me it happened to you too doesn't make the cops look any better. You're just making them look even worse. So when you,
but I'm telling you, they're fair. A shitty cop's gonna treat you as bad as he treats me.
So what you're saying is they're equal opportunity assholes.
They're equal opportunity offenders. They offend everybody the same.
Okay, well, I'm not even going to argue that. But what I'm simply saying is the reason why I haven't had any troubles with the police in terms of like the George Floyd and Rodney King stuff is because when they were mistreating me, I let them do it. If I had got angry or tried to assert my rights, I could be George Floyd too.
And that could have happened at any concert you went to when you got in an argument with the guy behind you. If you push the issue, he's going to push the issue.
But you are a sworn law enforcement officer. You get the benefit of the doubt and powers in court. You're not like a guy in a concert. You get with me, if I get into court or you get in court and you testify against an officer, a sworn officer is going to get the benefit of the doubt. So you can't hold him to the same standard as somebody behind you in a concert because he gets special privileges and powers. So that I don't see those arguments correlating.
But those that abuse the powers, like you said, need to be gone. And I don't disagree with you for a minute. We cannot take that edge, that special power, as you put it, that police have away from them, or they lose their edge. We can't have a bunch of wet noodle cops running around that can't enforce anything.
And see, I disagree with that. You're kind of sounding like you want a Clint Eastwood type cop or like a Charles Bronson walking around. The problem with this is humans make mistakes. Clint Eastwood in his movies, he didn't make a mistake. He always got the bad guy. So did Charles Bronson in his Death Wish movies. But in real life, if you get a police those powers you're talking about, they are inevitably going to arrest, kill, and beat people who don't deserve it. So it looks good in the movies, but in real life, that's dangerous.
Well, let me ask you a question. If you see a building burning, how fast are you running in there to pull a dog out? But firemen do it every day.
Yeah,
when you see a policeman on the street, when you see a policeman running towards gunfire, what percentage of America's running the other direction? Look at any of these parades where a gun goes off or a firecracker, and look at those people scatter like ants.
Okay, well,
but the police are running towards it. You've got to give the police some credit.
Okay, well, when you talk about the police running towards things and citizens running away, I'm going to assume you haven't been down to Uvalde or Parkland, Florida anytime recently, because there are plenty of cops that don't run toward this stuff. The firemen, on the other hand, you're right about the firemen. They do run towards danger. And that's why nobody hates firemen. The firemen do their job respectfully. And if you're in the fire, and you're trying to grab a laptop or trying to grab your purse, and the fire guy's saying, let's get out of the house, the whole house is on fire, and you're not following his instructions, the firemen don't beat the shit out of you with the axe. He will still work with you. It's the police
No,
that
but
do
he'll
not
wrap
know
the
how
hose
to handle
around
the
your neck.
situation. Huh?
He'll wrap the hose around your neck.
Well, I mean, how often do you hear of a fireman being charged with brutality? Even the ambulance drivers. How many ambulance drivers have had to give Narcan to a heroin overdose patient or something, ruining their high, pissing that person off? The person comes out of their coma or whatever and spits on the ambulance driver. You notice that when they face hostile patients, just like the firemen, they don't beat the hell out of them. It's only the cops that seem to believe that when they face a hostile person, they can just go overboard and beat the. All of us have bad customers and hostile customers at our jobs. Only the police seem to think it's okay to beat the hell out of everybody. Why is that? 52, did I lose you?
No, I was pointing something out to you.
It says, fuck your feelings.
That's right.
Good luck with
we have to grow a pair in this country. We have to quit mollycoddling crooks. We have to put the cops above the crooks. We have to lock the crooks up where it's miserable, where they're not with their homies. They're not having their little gangs. They're locked in a damn cell 23 hours a day. Let them out for an hour. They deserve to be there. They killed your niece. They robbed your store. They ran over your grandmother. They freaking deserve to be there. We need to punish them.
So what do you say about the? And by the way, when you said we need to grow a pair, I just wanted to respond and say the last time we elected a guy to help us grow a pair, the whole country developed testicular cancer. So I don't know about growing a pair, but let me ask you this: in regards to what you suggested, locking everybody up in a room and things like that. If in regards to giving people solitary confinement and talking about they ran over your grandmother and all these violent crimes, what do you say about the fact that most people in prison are in there for nonviolent crimes? You want to give them solitary confinement?
They're in there for a crime. A crime is against all of us. A crime is against you. A crime is against me. A crime is against everybody in this country. What they did to that person, they would just as quick have done to you or done to me. I have no respect for them. None. They don't deserve any special treatment. They don't deserve anything but punishment. And until we can get in that mindset, we're going to have people running out of Best Buys with a television. It ain't theirs. They don't have the right. What gives them the right?
How do you feel about protesters running out of the White House or running out of the Capitol building with Nancy Pelosi's pictures and podium? How do you feel about those guys?
That guy that wrote that note sitting in Nancy Pelosi's desk did more work in that office than that bitch has in 20 years.
So it was okay with him. It was okay for him to steal her property.
It's not okay to do anything illegal. Okay. Nobody. Right. You mean nobody. But when you get caught with it, you need to be punished.
All right, 52. Let me ask you a couple questions real quick in the comments. Melanin Love, I like the name. So do you think Trump committed a crime? Do you believe President Trump committed a crime?
I don't think we've had a politician in office since George Washington that hasn't.
Okay, that's fair. All right, man, I got to move it on. I'm doing a little bit abbreviated. You never disappoint, 52.
I love you, brother.
Absolutely. You have a good night, man. Come on back through. You know how we do it. All right, 52. Folks, he's here all day. 52 don't disappoint. That man, listen, we don't agree politically on virtually anything, but I always make it clear I let the folks speak. I don't censor, ban, or block, give you plenty of time. That's my entire spiel. You'll hear it all the time. Let me go right back to the box. I won't hold you. Path of Resilience. And you name who's George Washington? Come on now. Our favorite racist Oh my God, Ricky! Oh, Ricky, he's so funny. Really, really blows my mind. Path of Resilience. Good evening.
Even, sir.
Hey,
So for the
go ahead.
inner cities, the
Yes.
biggest problem we have is jobs. Good jobs. So all the jobs that we shipped off 30, 40 years over the last 30, 40 years to China, other countries, all those good manufacturing jobs, you'd have to bring those back to the cities.
So, how
If
do you view President Trump? That was one of his core promises, was to correct the trade imbalance with China and bring back jobs from China, from Mexico, with John Deere. Do you think he was on the right path, doing a good job there?
don't quite know, don't know how to answer that 100%. I was just gonna go over like a general. I wasn't gonna go really deep with
Okay.
that. So gonna go
Okay.
explain. So because I just want to answer a question, if you will,
Sure.
in general,
All right.
to what you have up there. And we can go deeper. I can try to answer the best of my ability.
Okay.
So
Okay.
you bring the jobs back. So if enough people have good jobs where they can afford healthcare, they can afford to have a basic life, you then have families. If you can bring back the nuclear family unit where there's a mother and father in the household, naturally you'll have kids that would be raised better, that would over time reduce the crime rates. And now all of that would include, you'd have to have reforms in healthcare system, because obviously our healthcare system's expensive. You'd have to have reforms all across the board. But the core problem with the inner cities is a lack of family. You can throw as much
Well,
money at the problem
yeah, but
as
in
you
regards
want.
to yeah, but in regards to lack of family, I mean, I know the few women that watch my program are not going to like this, but the feminist crowd has made it so that the nuclear family is kind of a myth from this point on because women want to work the same jobs, be involved in the same amount of employment stress as men. And you're not going to get back that type of family when both parties are working these jobs where the employer is demanding a hell of a lot out of them. When you look at the family structure that you're talking about, that we had in the 50s and things like that, there were two things happening. First of all, the women stayed home to properly raise the children. So there was always a parent home when the kid was home. The second issue is you worked 9 to 5. That was it. You worked Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. Very few people worked weekends because everything was closed. It's hard to find a job nowadays that allows you to work first shift 9 to 5. Almost all jobs require you to work weekends. The shifts are all over the damn place. It's even to the point now where they make people come in and work on Thanksgiving in a lot of jobs. So I don't know if you can go back to what you're suggesting because in a capitalist country, the goal is money, work, work, work. To quote Rihanna, but that's what everybody want to do is chase money. So I don't know how to get that back.
I know. I realize what you're getting at. I was just answering the question. That
Okay.
realistically, that is how you would fix it. Obviously, realistically, and where we're at now, there's a lot of hurdles, but that's how you would fix the problem. That's the problem that stems to all the other problems we have. Obviously, how to restructure the government, this, that, those are all very extensive talking points that can go many different ways. But
So let
that's
me
the
ask you this then. Let me ask you this then. If you look at the crime rate in Chicago versus somewhere like Boise, Idaho, you got the same employment structure in Boise, Idaho. Folks got to work and take care of themselves too. They don't have anywhere near the crime rate in Boise, Idaho that they do in Chicago. Because you hear folks saying liberal cities, and I'm not going to suggest that they're all liberal, but we do have a lot of cities with a hell of a lot of crime. But then when you look at some of these other cities, like I mentioned, Boise, Idaho, or Billings, Montana, somewhere, they're not dealing with all of that crime. What's the difference?
Well, I know it's not going to be. We'll use Chicago as a perfect example, and many of the other major cities. But right off the bat, they're gun-free zones, and everyone's like, "Well, that means it's safe." It's like, no, that means that you're telling everyone that the general population mostly doesn't have a means to protect themselves, and the criminals, to a certain extent, can run rampant. Whereas, like, you're
So,
using Billy. Billings, Montana, or Boise, Idaho, you have a more rural area, you'll out in the country more, where most people know that most people are armed to whatever extent, and that if they take a personal action, there could be a consequence for that may
Well, but
not favor well.
I gotta follow that up. When you say Chicago or Los Angeles or New York, I understand they do tend to have some gun laws, but when you look at the top 10 most violent cities in America, a lot of them are in southern states. Memphis doesn't have any tough gun laws. Neither does Baton Rouge. St. Louis is often ranked the murder capital of the world, or the country rather, the murder capital of the country. There's no strict gun laws in St. Louis. So I get your point of suggesting that it may have an issue in Chicago, but I'm pointing out cities to you where you could readily go out and buy an Uzi. And they have more crime, more murders in St. Louis per capita than Chicago. So how do you explain that?
Would we not agree or disagree that many of those cities, that even though they are in red states or in southern states, are more on the Democratic side or the left side?
They
Rand
may have
wise.
yeah, you're right. They may have a Democratic mayor, but they don't have the gun laws you're talking about. Gun laws are state based. They still do not have those tough gun laws. St. Louis, there's no gun restrictions in Memphis or St. Louis or Baton Rouge, Louisiana or Jacksonville, Florida, and these are some violent cities, and there's no tough gun laws there.
So if there's no tough gun laws, then logically, if it would be a gun-free zone, it would make it better then, right?
No, what I'm saying is you're talking about there's a gun-free zone in Chicago, and I'm giving you cities where it is 100% pro-gun, and they have a higher murder rate. And I'm trying to figure out
Now,
how does guns play into it at all.
But would that be higher murder rate for between criminals and gangs, or from criminals to just common day people? Where are those murder rates?
I believe St. Louis defeats the crime rate in Chicago in all of the categories you just named.
I don't have statistics. We're just talking. I don't have.
Right. I got family in both cities. Yeah, I got family in both cities. In fact, in the last 2 weeks, I've been in both St. Louis and Chicago. I regularly follow it, and yeah, St. Louis is worse than Chicago. Murder rate, all that. Now, Chicago has a hell of a lot of gangs, but if you look at per capita, St. Louis, yeah, it outranks Chicago almost every year. So does Gary, Indiana, Mike Pence's old state, which is also another very violent town. It's outside of Chicago. Like I mentioned, Baton Rouge, Memphis, Jacksonville, or Jacksonville, Florida. There's a whole lot of very violent areas that defeat Chicago in terms of murder rate, where there are no gun restrictions on you. You can get whatever you want.
Don't know. Ban all guns. That should solve the problem, right? That's all we hear.
Well, if you may hear the liberals promoting the banning of guns, but if you look at the actual laws in America, we have moved further and further towards giving everyone a gun. The assault rifle ban has long since been lifted. Even under President Obama, there were no gun restrictions whatsoever. President Biden joked about all you need is a shotgun to blast two shots in the air or something like that. But when you look at the liberal presidents we've had in the last 20 years or so, meaning Obama and Biden, they haven't passed any gun laws. None. In fact, Trump is the only guy that has banned bump stocks and talked about taking away guns from mentally ill people without due process. Trump has probably been stricter on gun possession than any president in our lifetime. And yeah, nobody's taking away guns. So the liberals are talking about it. But in reality, the gun laws in America have become far more relaxed in recent years. So I don't see where any gun restrictions are making any difference at all, because there's not many of them.
Well, I'm just saying logically, like they would like to take guns away. Well, who do you have that have guns then? Criminals and military.
Yeah, but you're talking about something they would like to do, versus what's actually happening. The Democrats would like to take guns away. I agree with you 100%. But what is actually happening in America is becoming easier and easier to get a gun. And the crime rates are going up. So, yeah, we can talk about what the Democrats would like to do, but in reality, what the Republicans would like to do is what's actually taking place in this country.
Well, that gets to that would mean that they see a business model in it then, logically, right?
How so?
Prisons. Not going to go on a crazy rant with the guy, but you know, the more people you can incarcerate, the more money you can make. Because as we know, the more fines and everything you rack up, the more you have to pay back. If you can't pay it back, it's harder. So that would logically mean that's the standpoint that they're taking then. Why end the crime?
And that's not going in making money off. Yeah, making money off of incarceration is not going to reduce crime at all.
But that's the point, though.
Yeah,
is if they keep it going, it's another money thing. That would logically that would be the logical outcome of if we have rising crime. That means that they're making money off of it. Honestly, we know if you have a criminal is convicted, he's locked up. That's how it should be. But if you want to continue to open more jails and incarcerate more of the population and keep the whole system going, well, then you just let go of the way it's going right now.
Well, then you would have to assume with the right saying that the left is so soft on crime that when you're talking about mass incarceration, like what you're talking about, that's a right-wing promoted tenet. It's the right that wants more people in jail, wants more prisons built, wants sentences to be tougher. That's a right-wing philosophy.
I don't agree with that because, like the point you're saying is, and the last guest went a little bit extreme with it is, certain crimes, yes, they should get life sentences. But other crimes, you treat a prisoner poorly, and then, like you said, they become monsters.
He was promoting solitary confinement for everybody that goes to jail. Well, listen, I got to move it on, man. Give you the last word.
Yeah, no, it was a good talk. I just kind of wanted to get to answer that basic question you had. So obviously, I don't have all the answers to your questions, but it was a good talk, sir. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. You're welcome back anytime, man. You have a good night.
Take it easy.
All right. Okay. Comments, by the way. The border will prevent us from leaving. You think America's trying to keep us all in? Berlin style? What is East Berlin style? The border will keep us from leaving. I don't know about that one. Have we got to that point yet? That's scary if you're saying. Just recently, ghost guns and being found in schools more and more. I will say this is the way our country, and I was telling this to the previous caller before I go back to the box, the way our country has moved on gun ownership. Why do you need a ghost gun? You can go out and buy one legally. I mean, a lot of states have made it so you don't need a permit even to get a gun now. There's no way you don't have to register your gun or anything. I mean, a lot of states have made it so that as long as you're 18, you can go out and buy whatever you want. That's about as easy as buying a gun, damn near as buying a can of Coca-Cola. Why do you even need a ghost gun? And that's what I was trying to tell the previous caller, that even though the liberals are always talking about gun control, the direction this country is taking is the exact opposite. The liberals can talk all day about what they want to do, but in reality, the right wing is the ones that's getting what they want. It's getting easier to buy a gun, not harder. And by the way, before I go back to the box real quick, being from Chicago, I will tell you this. Even in Chicago, I believe it takes about a week or two and you can legally get a gun. It is the laws in Chicago to own a gun seem difficult because they're so damn relaxed everywhere else. But if you want to own a pistol to protect yourself in Chicago, it's actually not that hard. I mean, okay, so it takes a week or two longer. That's not a huge freaking hurdle. If you want to own a gun to protect yourself and your family in Chicago, you can legally get one. But yeah, if you are, extremely pro-gun, that week or two seems like a ridiculously long hurdle. But no, in reality, it's not that hard for a legal gun owner to get a gun even in Chicago. So understand that. I'll go back to the box with I am George. You got that are holding. I am George.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm in the trenches talking about the GOP reducing inner city crime because they're always blaming Biden for rising crime rates. You think a Republican president could bring down crime in places like Chicago and Memphis and places like that?
I think a president does have the ability to bring down crime, but I think it's a two-part thing. I think the first thing
Okay.
is we have to understand that what keeps most of us honest is fear of consequences. So
Okay.
you have to enforce the law and understand that not all laws are written fair. So some laws may need to be revisited and rewritten or so on and so forth. We also have to understand the second part of the system that has a fault to it is we have flawed people that are enforcing the law. Not all police are bad, and not all judges are good either. So there should be better oversight in with the police and better oversight with judges as well. Because I don't believe that all laws are distributed equally. Even though it's the same law.
Yeah, okay, let's tackle your 2 points. Before we go to bed, some flawed judges and cops. Let's start with the fear of consequences. If you commit a crime, what do you think the consequences should be? Okay, because if you go out and commit a crime, you and I, we're free people. We can walk around, do whatever we want, go to our house, go to Walmart, go shopping, bang a couple chicks, whatever we want to do, we can do it. So if you go to jail and all of that's taken away from you, isn't that a consequence? Do you need to have your ass beat and be in solitary confinement when you're in there? Isn't simply losing your freedom a consequence?
I think losing your freedom is a consequence, but if you look at places where we have no bail, or you can steal or do whatever up to $1,000, and there are no consequences for that, then you open up the gateway for people who are already going to do something bad, or somebody who was standing on the borderline to go ahead and say, "Hey, you've given me the green light." So yes, there are consequences, and they should be enforced. And I think that would reduce the amount of appeal to crime for a lot of people. So, but we also too, when we say that it's the president or GOP or Biden or so on and so forth, we have to understand too that the it has to be on a local level in which these laws are enforced. I think the federal government can intervene by saying, "Hey, we're going to withhold certain funding if you don't get things under control," or whatever the case may be. But I don't think it's solely the federal government's responsibility.
So let me ask you this. Let's say you get charged. Let's say some chick accuses you of sexual assault, and she's able to cry and get the district attorney to charge you or the prosecutors to charge you. And you're being charged with a serious sexual assault. So they throw a bill at you that you cannot afford to pay. What happens to you while you are waiting on your trial?
I mean, I think you can't get rid of bail altogether. I think you can make bail something reasonable,
How
um,
so?
and and I think you revisit it, and maybe the bail could be you revisit it based upon whatever the average income for your state would be, or something of that nature. So you can revisit the amount. I don't think you get rid of it altogether. And you do have some no bail thing where you have I think it's called personal bail or whatever, where
Yeah,
you don't pay.
but okay, here's the problem with that. If you reduce bail to the point where who is charged with a violent crime can afford to bail out, essentially the right wing is going to view that just like no bail at all. Because when they say they want bail, what they're really saying is, I want anybody charged with a violent crime to sit in jail regardless if they're guilty or not until trial. So if I'm charged with assault and they give me a bail low enough that I can pay to get out, because you said revisit it based on income and things, they give me a bail low enough that I can pay to get out, they're going to treat the politician that agreed with that legislation no different than no bail at all because they don't want me out.
I mean, I don't think no bail at all. I don't think we can compare them and say that they're parallel, right? If I'm out and I'm a criminal, and then my whole living is based upon cr crimes, right? And I don't have any source of income, it is less likely that I would have the money to bail out, period, no matter what it is. So, I don't, we can't say that reducing it would be the same as no bail at all. Um, so I would have to argue they're not one and the same. You
Okay,
know,
well let's take my example again. You've been charged with assault or something like that, and they give you a bill. And like I said, even if you revisit whatever it is based on income or whatever, you got to realize if somebody charges you with sexual assault, your source of income is probably going to end. Your employer is probably going to fire you with a sexual assault hanging over your head. So you have no income, so you still may not be able to pay that bill. Do you believe that the person who has not been convicted of anything at all
Well,
should
Bill,
spend?
after getting fired, well, if we have to separate getting fired after you have been let out of jail, that you wouldn't at that point you've already paid your bill. At that point, you would be
That
on
ain't what I'm
probation
talking about.
parole.
That ain't what I'm
Okay.
talking about. If you get arrested for sexual assault, let's say you're at the job and the police come up there and arrest you, you're probably going to lose your job right then and there. Nobody cares if you're guilty or not. That employer is probably going to fire you right there for their own reputation's sake. What I'm saying is that with your income in the can, you're probably going to end up serving time in jail, regardless of the fact you haven't been convicted of anything until your trial. And I'm asking you, how do you feel in a bail system with so many people spending time in jail and a lot of them being found not guilty? Everybody that gets charged are not found guilty. A lot of folks are acquitted.
Mhm.
Charges are often dropped. They even say it on the beginning of the first 48. They say it down there at the bottom. Charges are often dropped. Folks are acquitted. How do you get back all of that time you lost sitting in jail for a crime you didn't commit or a crime you were acquitted of?
I don't. One, I think what we're saying two things because you circle back around again and said someone losing their job after they've been arrested. That is a probation, or so you get the probation or parole that you're going to be paying at that point, or probate, whatever it is. Bail would be something you would pay a percentage up front or out over a course of time. So it's not necessarily something you're going to be paying up front anyways. There could be the option for even some sort of in-home arrest during that time and say, okay, fine, we're reducing the bill to this, and if it's not this, then the other option is house arrest or whatever the case may be. But there has to be some sort of fear of consequences to negate the idea that makes of committing a crime. Now, I'm not saying you have to throw the book at everybody for everything, but there has to be a fear of something. That's what prevents most of us good people from doing something.
But you're trying to, if you want to say the fear of, consequences and the fear for your actions, you want to impose that to make sure people obey the law. That should be done when they are convicted and in prison. You're throwing all of these punishments in their face the minute they are arrested when they have not been convicted of anything. If I haven't done anything wrong, I've just been charged with a crime and I know I didn't do it. Why am I facing fears and all of this stuff you're throwing at? You're hurting innocent people.
Well, a conviction and a charge is two separate things.
Yeah,
So,
they're years apart. Sometimes they're years apart.
yeah. So, I mean, one, you're not convicted of a crime until proven, unless it's federal, right? You're not convicted of a crime until you're proven innocent. And then the federal, like on the other hand, on federal, you're convicted first and then proven innocent second.
Yeah, you should. I guess the point I'm trying to make with you is what happened to the phrase "innocent until proven guilty." You're treating people like they're guilty at the moment of arrest. You're imposing high bails. You're making them spend time in jail and all of this, and they have never been found guilty of a single crime at all.
Well, it goes back to my point again to where we have to have oversight, what I said earlier on judges, because you have people, the part of this system that is flawed is human, right? You have flawed individuals enforcing the law. And so if there's better oversight, you have some judges, they're going to find you guilty no matter what. That's just what their claim to fame is, right? And there's going to be some that's going to let everybody off. That's their claim to fame. You have flawed individuals that are enforcing a flawed system. And so there has to be better oversight, even with the judges, starting with the judges. So that oversight, I think, once you have better oversight in that area, then it almost, I won't say it fixes itself in regards to the bail system, but it somewhat takes away some of the errors in the system, I would believe.
Okay. All right. Well, I got to move it on, but I'll ask you this one last question before we go. Would you agree that the bail system itself affects folks on the bottom end of the social scale more than folks who have money and power or money and wealth?
Well, I think the law in general, the law is different for those that have money The law is different for those that look a certain way, and there's laws that for the have and have-nots, right? We all have the same law. It's just distributed not all the time equally.
All right, fair point. All right, appreciate you coming through, George. Anytime, you're welcome back, man.
All right, thank you.
All right, take care. All right, comments. Somebody talking to 11. 11 Butterflies is in here. Good evening to you. I always enjoy a conversation with 11. Spirited debate with her. She's good. I always enjoy talking to you, 11. I see somebody's comment. That's why I drive around with a camera jammer. It destroyed cell camera and CCTV. That my good man is a felony. Dems Mafia Empire. In fact, there was a guy. Before I go back to the box real quick, a guy who hated folks on the phone on the highway. I think it was out in LA. He didn't like folks using their cell phones while they were driving. Obviously, distracted driving can cause accidents and things like that. He put a jammer in the trunk of his car and drove down the highway back and forth and was jamming phones so that people could not use the cell phone when they were driving. Anyway, he got caught. Police got near him. Even their radios were being screwed up because the 800 megahertz band and all of that stuff is affected by that. That's a felony. And I forgot how much time in prison they said he could face doing that. But jamming cell phone signals is a felony, which is why, you would want them to do that in movie theaters. I want to watch a movie, turn your damn phone off. Why can't movie theaters have jamming devices? Well, because it's a felony. And why is it a felony? Because you got cases like Little Town, Colorado, where the Batman guy went in there and shot up everybody while watching the Dark Knight movie. You got schools where the teacher would want to have phones not work so the students can be taught in class. What happens if the students are being shot at and trying to use their phones to call 911 and call help? You can't jam phones. It is a felony to jam cell phone use anywhere, anytime. So I just want to let you know that if you got a jammer on you, don't get caught with that. Looking in the comments, Boat Chris. And somebody said it is not. Okay, good luck. Phones, don't get caught. That's all I'm telling you. Don't get caught doing that. It's a big felony, by the way. Coach Chris, good afternoon. Or good evening, by the way.
Good evening.
How are you? What's going on with you?
Oh, I'm still kicking around. I was going to bring up a couple of things that you guys were talking about earlier. There is a set time that
all right,
you have
give me
to
what's
go.
on your mind. And King Me says, can you vote for yours truly as president? I don't know how many skeletons are in my closet. I'm a little nervous. But Boats Chris, what did you want to talk about? What did you hear you want to bring up?
So, first of all, there is a set time when you're arrested that you have to go before a judge.
Right.
Supreme Court ruled that it's 48 hours.
Okay.
So with that being said, during that hearing, that's when they set your bail. Now, I know bail's a big issue and a big concern.
They're also setting bail. They're also setting bail on somebody who has not been convicted of anything yet. But go ahead.
Right. It's also something that can't be standardized. And the reason it can't be standardized is you have to take a look at the evidence and what's being presented and the conditions of the crime. Now, you bring up if I was accused of a sexual assault or some other major thing and I couldn't afford my bail.
Right.
Me personally, I would sit there and work with my attorney to either A, get my bail lowered, or B, sit there and wait until I could get in front of a jury. 6-8 months, okay, I get that. The bigger issue with that becomes like the guy in Portland that was lighting fires. He lit a fire, got arrested in the process. They let him out. He lit another one, got processed, and they let him out again and was lighting a third fire before they detained him permanently. That's an issue.
Okay. Yeah, it is an issue. And my response to that would be, it's kind of like the old Tom Cruise movie, The Minority Report, where we want to punish people ahead of time proactively. So we impose these high bails because we assume all criminals are eager to get out and reoffend. The notion that a violent criminal has learned his lesson and don't want to do it again it just boggles the mind, which is why we treat all violent criminals, even the ones who have served decades in prison, like we expect them to commit another crime. So we're always thinking that a violent criminal, the only thing on his mind is how can I get out and commit more crimes? And that's why you get these bails. But I agree with what you're saying that happened in Portland is a problem.
But when I start pointing out how many people have served time in jail for crimes they were exonerated of, acquitted of, or didn't do, wouldn't you admit that that's also a problem?
I would absolutely say that's a problem.
So what do we do about it?
It goes to what the last gentleman was saying about there's definitely bad people operating the system, but we have to be able to find that balance. Another issue I've got is our prisons. Our prisons are some of the softest prisons in the world when you look at them.
No. What do you mean when you say soft? I don't believe that. Explain that. Elaborate on that.
Name me one other country that allows prisoners to have tablets or iPads in their cells.
Oh my God. Australia, Norway. I mean, there are so many prisons that treat people better than America. Sweden, New Zealand. I would tell you this. Any first world country, you would probably rather be incarcerated in that country than the United States. When you compare the United States and suggest it's a better prison, you're usually comparing it to Mexico or Russia or some of these developing countries. But first world, I would rather be in any Western Europe prison than America.
So, Japan, for instance, they're a first world nation.
Okay.
Their prison system is insane. If you're incarcerated in Japan, you have to pay for it.
Yeah, people in American jails get out with ridiculous amounts of restitution as well. Most American felons get out and they can never pay that shit off.
We're not paying back the prison. We're paying back for what the crime was.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, you got a debt over your head that you can't afford to pay it back. It doesn't matter if it's a prison debt or restitution to the victims. At the end of the day, it's a debt you can't pay. You want to tack on the prison debt? You can do that, but they can't even pay the family restitution. You can tack that on all you want. All that does is lead to the potential of that criminal reoffending, because now they're getting out. They can barely get a minimum wage job, and they're tens of thousands of dollars in debt. And if we listen to what you're talking about and then add on making them repay the incarceration fines back as well, these aren't people that's going to get out and become, a Ben Carson type surgeons. They're going to get out and make a job, get a job paying $10 or $15 an hour. Throwing all this debt at them is a moot point. You're just inviting them to reoffend and commit crimes to get by.
So how do you convince somebody before they commit the massive crimes that they're going to jail for? And yeah, people are wrongfully accused. I'll give you that. Yeah. But how do you do it? Do you take Giuliani's approach where it's broken windows policing?
No.
And go that route?
I would try to, if I was in like a warden and they put me over recidivism rates, the first thing I would do is try to model my prisons after prisons that have low recidivism rates. We try to model our prisons after the victims, suggesting I want this criminal that offended my family to have the worst time in jail possible. We try to model our prisons after their wishes, more based on the revenge scenario. But if you look at the countries with low recidivism rates, one thing they all have in common: they treat the inmate like a human being. And in our prisons, we try to avoid doing that. We try to they don't even let you have stuff like cigarettes in some prisons. Some prisons don't let you have pornographic material, which now you're promoting assaults on each other, because that's what they would use to relieve sexual stress. You take away the girlfriend can't send a picture of herself to them and stuff like that. So it's almost like you kind of want them to be hostile. Prisons that take away weights, take away educationals. We don't want school because the taxpayers are saying they didn't get to go to school for free, so neither should you. Like, make them bust rocks all day, as if that's going to make them come out of prison and become a valuable member to society. So if it was up to me, I would pattern my institution after institutions around the world that had a lower recidivism rate.
I mean, that's one of the things. Japan has one of the recidivism rates ever out of any country.
I didn't hear you say that again.
I said Japan has one of the lowest recidivism rates out of any country in the world anywhere.
Okay, but they also have
But
one of
why
the
is
lowest. They also have some of the most strictest gun laws in the world. You want to pattern? You want to pattern our country after Japan?
so? And this is where the issue comes into play, because we start wanting these lower things. Now, one of the things that they do in Japan is they teach you a skill while you're in prison.
Okay,
I'm not against doing that,
all right.
but like I said originally, at some point you got to find a way to prevent the initial steps of getting there.
Yeah,
Portland here in
I'm in
Oregon is a
agreement
prime
with that.
example.
Go ahead.
Portland here is a prime example. If you look at the stuff that happened in Portland, that was insane. I mean, and everybody says the crime rate under Trump was high because of stuff like that. Well, yeah, I agree with you. But at the same time, as he was saying, address the issue, you had the mayor of Portland walk right down in the middle of it, get tear gassed because people were throwing firecrackers at law enforcement, and then saying that there's no issue here. I don't get
So
how somebody can stand there and do that.
I will tell you, in my opinion, somebody else pointed out jobs in the economy. I do believe that capitalism, and we are a very strong capitalist based country, even more so than just about anybody else on earth, really. All of our allies, we are more capitalist based in this country because most other first world countries have more social programs than America. I believe that the chasing of the almighty dollar has a lot of reasoning for a lot of the problems we're talking about in this country, including the poverty levels. Whereas in other countries, you can't, like I lived in Australia for 5 years, for instance. You can't be homeless there. There are policies that will prevent you from being homeless. You can fall flatter on your ass in America than you can in most other westernized countries because there are more policies that would kick in. Same thing with healthcare. I mean, and folks fought strongly against Obama trying to give everybody healthcare. Most first world countries, including Japan that you mentioned, they have that. Same thing with education and a lot of these other things. But in America, because the first question everybody asks is, who's going to pay for it? I'm a capitalist country. I want to make sure I got as much money in my pocket as possible. So I don't want to help out the next guy. Well, then the next guy starts robbing you. So I do believe that a lot of the problems we're discussing about all of this, yeah, it's rooted in everybody chasing the almighty dollar, up to and including even the way families are raised, where the kids aren't home in the neighborhood and the gangbangers are raising the kids because mom and dad are out chasing money. I just think that is probably the biggest problem in this country.
I don't think we actually appreciate what we have in this country. And that's part of one of our biggest problems.
Give me some examples. What do you mean? What do we have? What are you talking about?
So it's been said that our homeless are more wealthy than some of these countries' middle class.
Yeah, but you're talking wealthy. In America, when folks say you have things, it's all based on money. Like you could be a divorcee, you could be a multiple time felon, you could be dying of cancer, but as long as you got money, they call you successful. So when you say people in this country don't realize what they have, it's because it's all based on money. You look at a homeless person, yeah, you got more than they have in Nigeria. Yeah, but what is his family like? What is his health like? What is his mental? All of these other areas may be horrible. But we're pointing to the fact, well, he has a color TV, he has air conditioning, he has a refrigerator. We're basing it all on financial acquisitions. There's more to a person than what they have financially.
See, okay, so you take the financial aspect and you look at the financial aspect, and you would probably agree that most homeless people don't have a very high financial aspect here in the United States.
True.
But have you ever seen a fat homeless person in any other country?
I haven't seen, like I said, when I lived in Australia, they didn't have any homeless. I don't know. I mean, does France or Germany, do they have a large homeless problem? Most of these countries, because they have social programs, they don't have the amount of homelessness we do.
It's increasing most places around the world, but A lot of these first world countries don't have nearly the homeless problems we have. They also don't have the attitudes that we have. Because frankly, as Americans, we're arrogant.
Yeah. When you mentioned fat homeless people, I would tell you that also is capitalism based. The fact that they stuff our foods with all types of shit to make you addicted or make you a lot of the reason people are fat in this country has a lot to do with chasing the almighty dollar as well. The stuff they promote, the stuff they put in our food and all of that. But now I don't know if I've seen too many fat homeless people elsewhere.
I can tell you out of all the countries I've been in, I've never seen a fat homeless person or a fat beggar.
All right.
Except for back in the States. I see people here in the States that are homeless because they want to be homeless. I've never heard of that anywhere else in the world.
Okay, well, it might be because our mental health treatment is worse in this country. If you're in one of those other countries, you probably got access to health care, so maybe you can get your hands on mental health. Because, like you said, if a person wants to be homeless, they probably got a mental health issue. And in our country, because we are so much against giving people health care as a right, you're going to have more mentally ill in this country.
I'm not saying there isn't mental health issues out there, but I'm saying that there are people that are homeless because they don't want to put into the system.
Yeah, I get that, but the point I'm trying to make is if you and I agree that mental health is a huge issue, and both the left and the right agree that mental health is a huge issue, why are so many right wingers against universal health care for all when that would be the primary way to treat it?
I'm not completely against universal health care for all.
Okay.
But what I will say on that issue is, have you ever looked at the VA? That's the way our government does healthcare. And it is horrible. So if I'm going to take that as the standard, I would rather have independent healthcare.
Yeah, but you're comparing the crappy VA treatment. The VA is providing health care to people who have insurance through the military. You're saying it's not adequate. I get that. But if you go to independent insurance like you're talking about, because the VA is so terrible, poor people with no money gets nothing. If I have no insurance at all, I'd rather have access to crappy insurance versus nothing. So I'm promoting universal health care because there's a lot of people who have the opposing choice, which is nothing.
See, but I would also say that the healthcare system needs to be not necessarily more regulated, but more transparent with the way that they do business.
All right, that's fair. That's a fair point. And real quick in the comments, Bible guy, real quick, I'll let you continue real quick, but real quick in the comments, Bible guy said that's not true. It's illegal for a hospital to turn people away. The hospitals only have to take you to stabilize you. If you walk in there and say you got a mental health issue, they don't have to give you much treatment at all. People get turned away from hospitals all the time. They stabilize you. If you get shot, for instance, they will try to control the bleeding and stabilize you. But no, you're not going to get treated adequately if you don't have health insurance. But go ahead, Boats. Go ahead.
But see, that's another thing. You bring up mental health and going into a hospital. You walk into a hospital with a mental health issue that you're actively engaged in, at 72 hours. Immediately.
Yeah, incarceration. Yeah, 72 hours incarceration. They're not going to do anything for you. They're just going to hold your ass.
See, I'm out here in Oregon. They put you in an inpatient review for 72 hours. They set you up with meds, and it's paid for by the taxpayers. I
wonder if they do that. Go ahead.
I can't say that I think that's right, because once you do that 72 hours and once you get those meds, now you don't qualify for assistant programs.
Yeah. Well, you're also in the liberal area. I would love to know what they do in Texas if you walk in there under the same conditions. But I got to move it on, Chris. I'll give you the last word, man.
Yeah. I honestly, I think with the issue that you have up, we've got to figure out how to reduce the key causes and make prisons where you don't want to be.
Yeah. I don't think people want to be in prison even now. I don't, even if you make it, even if you make it nice like Norway or make it solitary confinement like Russia, I don't think people ever want to be in prison, because even if prison is a nice place to be, you still lose a hell of a lot of freedoms. And most people like their freedoms until you make them institutionalized like Morgan Freeman and Shawshank. Then they don't want their freedoms anymore. But yeah, most people don't want to lose their freedoms no matter what the condition of life is like in prison.
Yeah. All right,
All
brother.
right.
Thank you for having
Catch
me
you
on. I
later.
appreciate it.
Hey,
Yep.
anytime, Boats.
Bye.
Come on back. Corrective action. I just, in my response before I go back to the box, is just simple. When I talk to folks on the right, they do want prison to be harsher and harsher and harsher. You heard 52 Cent a couple calls ago suggesting that everybody that go to jail, for the most part, be placed in solitary confinement. I think he said 23 hours incarcerated. Give them a hour out to stretch their legs or whatever, which is referred to as lockdown 23-1. That's essentially solitary confinement. There have been no shortage of medical professionals that have stated that solitary confinement is torture, leads to you talking to yourself, becoming delusional, increases the aptitude towards suicide and things like that. And then you take that in consideration with the fact that over 80% of folks that are serving time will one day get out. You're just literally releasing crazy people. If somebody's done 5-10 years of solitary confinement, you think you're going to release them back in society and they're going to become a model member of society? Really? All right, going back to the box. Modern colonizer. Definitely a friend of modern colonizer. What do you think? GOP making an attempt to claim that they can reduce inner city crime better than liberals. How would they do that?
I don't think that's such a strong claim. You know what I mean?
You don't hear them criticize. You don't hear them talking about even Trump saying that crime has went up significantly under Biden.
I'm saying you can't make the claim you're going to reduce crime, regardless of who you are.
But they're doing it.
I know
they're doing it,
and they're not at my house barbecuing with me right now, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Fair enough. Okay, so when Trump blames President Biden for rising inner city crimes, he's talking out the side of his neck, in other words.
Not 100%. I think there's this.
What could he do different? What could Trump do differently to make it so that the crime rates are not the same as they are under Biden? What could he do to reduce crime that Biden is not doing?
Poverty breeds criminal activity, and the economy
better
when Trump was in office. The
economy was better.
Of a claim as somebody could make that they will reduce crime is I will run a better economy.
Okay, so what, in your personal opinion, what did you think of the Trump economy versus the Obama economy?
I 100% agree that Trump inherited a good economy from Obama. Obama did a fantastic job with the economy. That's kind of one of the only things he got Bin Laden, but other than that, the economy is about the only thing I really.
Whose was better?
Obama finished with a better economy than Trump finished with. Yeah.
Okay, so economically, Obama's economy was better than Trump.
Yeah, I mean,
okay,
you had COVID do that though. I think you take away COVID, he would have, just like you've always discussed, he would have taken a nice car and given back a nice car. You know.
Okay.
So
fair enough, but I guess the point I'm trying to make is that under the Trump economy and the Obama economy, crime was higher under Trump than it was under Obama, and both economies were good. You get what I'm saying? The crime rate did not go down under Trump; it went up because Trump was constantly talking about Chicago, inner city violence, the summer of 2020, all of those riots and things were going on. All of that happened under Trump. And not to mention stuff he denies, like the FBI saying that hate crimes are going up. Under Trump, crime went up. And it went up before COVID because the FBI suggested that hate crimes were increasing in 2017. COVID didn't start to 2020. So under Trump, crime was going up with that economy.
Right. I just want to know, what would the numbers be if you took away that French actor, Jussie Smollett? If you took away his case. No, hey.
I don't think Jussie Smollett accusing MAGA of hanging him. You think that increased the hate crimes?
No, I'm just having fun with it, man.
Oh, okay. All right.
Hey, I'm not gonna say, any single president has really done anything to like improve or drastically hurt crime rates, right? All their stuff is secondary effects, right? Now, what would cause a lower crime rate? A better economy. Okay, what would cause a worsened crime rate? Obviously, worse economy. But when you talk about hate crimes increasing under Trump, I mean, do you really think somebody who's capable of doing a hate crime goes, you know what? That's my last straw right there. What that guy just said. I'm going to go do my hate crime. I don't think so.
I'm going to tell you, I definitely believe that after losing 60 court cases and then hearing that Mike Pence was not going to overturn the election, I think Mike Pence saying he wasn't going to do that was a last straw. Yeah, I think there can be last straws. When Mike Pence announced that he was not going to overturn the election that Trump wanted, yeah, that was a last straw. That's why they were there on January 6th. If Mike Pence had did that, January 6th would not have happened. So I do believe last straws can happen.
I don't know if there's any hate crimes committed on January 6th.
Well, they were certainly chasing that black Capitol Police officer up the stairs using hate crime words to him.
Yeah. I don't know. I just don't think that I'm going to die on this hill that if you're evil enough to perform a hate crime, you don't need any motivation from Trump.
I agree with that, but sometimes you can lie dormant until you feel like you have authorization, so to speak. Like you look at what happened with Black Lives Matter. On individually, the person might not be willing to throw a Molotov cocktail into a CVS or break into a Best Buy and take a television. But if there's hundreds of them there doing it, it becomes easier to do because you feel more likely to get away with it. So I agree that it might already be in you, but sometimes you can feel, what do they call it? Dog whistles, for instance. And there are no shortage of white supremacists, for instance, folks who suggested that they used to be a white supremacist and they're no longer. And they're coming out and saying, yeah, the stuff Trump is saying is exactly what we used to listen for. These are the messages we were waiting to hear, like to stand back and stand by. They're claiming that that's a message. I understand MAGA is saying that there's no message in that, but they're making it clear that was a message to them. And by the way, let me ask you this: are you aware that Trump not tweeted out, but he has Truth Social? Are you aware that he sent out a picture of himself a few days ago with a actual Q lapel pin on him?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah. What do you, if you saw a picture of President Trump, just like the little flag lapel, he has one that says Q on his person. What do you think that would mean if you saw that?
What's the Q represent again?
It's a conspiracy fringe group. I don't know what they represent, but it's not good.
Right, but these are the people who are saying that the election was stolen and...
Yeah. Hillary Clinton is an abuser of children and drinks their blood and all of that. They're saying all of that stuff. Tom Hanks was hanging out with Epstein or whatever that guy's name is, and Oprah Winfrey and all. They're saying all of that stuff.
Right. So would you be able to make, compare and contrast Biden's speech and say that is just as equally immature or divided, unpresidential?
No.
That?
No, I don't, because Q is an actual group. I mean, and we know everything about Q has been proven to be wrong. I mean, I can't even tell you how many hundreds of things, because I've been talking to folks on the right ever since. Well, shit, I've been talking to them since 20 years ago, but since the Trump era when Q became prominent, I can't tell you how many things they suggested that were going to come true that did not. So for him to come out wearing a Q lapel, a flag or a little pin on him, that makes it clear that he's aligned with Q. I mean, how else can you take that?
I don't know. I guess I've just never really given it too much thought of the QAnon group.
Okay.
You know, what I can say, because I had some pretty shitty comments in here. What I can say is the debates at this point are rather useless. If you support Trump, there's nothing that is going to be said to you that's going to change your mind. If you don't like Trump, the same thing. And what's pretty clear to me these days is that people, just like I've always said, and just like dude was talking about, the last dude you had on, make prison suck. As long as it's not happening to you, people are okay with it, and that's gone to an extreme in America. And you know what? Wait till your ass goes to jail and ask for it to be harder. You know what I mean? I've been to jail, and and I didn't have a coat, and the dude was like, "Oh, you got to talk to that guy over there for a coat. That cop over there, he handles coats." So I go and I'm like, "Hey man, I didn't get a coat when I came in." He's like, "Oh man, you didn't get a coat?" And I was like, "Nah." And he goes, "Oh well, I got one," and he walked off. You know what I mean? Like, I know that's not the gonna happen to you in jail. I'm just saying, jail sucks, man. But
it does.
But regardless of which side of the political aisle you're on, you're okay with the other side either being constitutional rights being violated or not getting due process, whatever. You're okay with it
I
at
don't
this
know
point.
if I'd agree with that totally, because you got folks like Liz Cheney that is totally going against what Trump is doing. You have folks like John McCain, who took a microphone out of the hand of one of his own supporters when she tried to say that Barack Obama was a Muslim. There are plenty of people, such as myself. I'm doing it in a really tiny corner of social media, but I speak out against folks who paint Trump as the devil. I mean, I don't agree with a lot of things that Trump did, but I point out things that he did that were decent. I don't make him sound like he's Satan. I mean, there are people out there that are not completely drawn to their side so much that they can only see errors on the other side. I can see plenty of flaws on the Democratic side of the aisle as well, and I point them out all day on this program quite often.
Yeah, but that's not the majority, man. Those people are few and far between, right?
Yeah, I agree with that.
A vast majority, I would say over 90% of people who are either aligned with Biden or aligned with Trump, which is totally against what America stands for, being aligned with a person. You're supposed to be aligned with the country and the Constitution.
Yeah, but see, I disagree with you on the notion that the Democrats are aligned with Biden in the sense that
wrong, and the economy's just flourishing, and he's just undoing Trump, like you always say. At what point is this your responsibility?
But that's not.
Are you
okay? Go ahead.
I'm sorry to speak over you and get loud, man, but
no, go ahead. You're good.
For the people who say, "Oh, infrastructure bill," name me one piece of freaking infrastructure that has been built off that bill. The guy has done nothing for the United States, and at what point is this his boat that he's steering? It's fucking bullshit that people will just give Biden a total pass. If you bring up his son's laptop, you're just QAnon, you're a conspiracy there. But you're going to call out every single thing on Trump. And it's been 6 years people have had Trump's name in their mouth. They started trying to impeach him while he was taking the oath, and they're still talking about his ass, trying to use Gestapo tactics to keep him from running again. That is un-American. I don't care who it's happening to. That is
wait. What party? When you say it's un-American, what are you talking about? What's un-American?
To, just like you talked about, their goal is not to put him in a jumpsuit. Their goal is to keep him from running for re-election.
Okay.
Right?
But I guess I have to ask you, this is the thing I say often on this program. Does folks have it in for Trump? Yeah. Is some of it wrong? Yeah. But one of the issues is
almost everything that Trump complains about that is being wrongfully done to him, he did to someone else, such as you mentioned, being after him from day one. He suggested that Barack Obama was born in another country. You mentioned folks being after him. Well, Mitch McConnell said he was going to make Barack Obama a one-term president. A lot of the things that he is saying he's a victim of, he actively participated in doing to other people. Right now, with the ultra MAGA speech you mentioned coming from President Biden and how divisive that was. How many red blue city speeches or Baltimore's a shithole speeches did Trump give? So I agree with you that folks have it in for Trump, but unfortunately, he doesn't make a good victim because he is literally the arsonist complaining about being burned in a fire. He is the guy who's done all of this stuff. And now that it's coming on him and he's like, oh, this shit is horrible. Well, you didn't have a problem when you were doing it to other people.
I agree. Yeah, you're right. And you know what somebody else brought up that I completely forgot about? Call it a bias. I don't know. But where all my frustration comes from is, we talk about Russian disinformation and other countries influencing our elections. What about our own political entities, our own federal government influencing elections? And I completely forgot when the FBI brought up that stuff about Hillary right before the election, right? And you got to start thinking, these government bodies can't be influencing elections this way. At what point? Imagine it was
once again, I would bring up when Comey used the FBI and announced there was an investigation on Hillary 10 days before the election. The Republicans didn't have a problem with that at all. They didn't say, well, the FBI is corrupt, and they championed that shit on. All of a sudden, when it happened to it happened to Trump, then it became bad. But that goes back to the point I said, that everything Trump is complaining about, he didn't have any problem when he was doing it to other people or was happening to the other side right in front of him. So he just makes for a bad victim. Not saying that he may not be a true victim of some of this stuff, but he makes for a bad victim because he's engaged in all of this stuff himself.
Right. I will admit, I will concede that I'm just as guilty of anyone else of saying, well, it's not happening to me, so no big deal. That is a flaw in humanity, okay? Mm-hmm. I will concede that. But the credit has to be given that I recognize I was wrong, and I recognize the wrong that is happening regardless of who it's happening to. And
you think Trump recognized those wrongs? You think if he get reelected, he has realized that was wrong and is going to stop doing that stuff?
No.
Right. So we don't need him back then, is what you're saying. I gotta move it on, Colonizer.
I don't think he's that mature.
I don't either. So I appreciate it. Hey, come on back to anytime, man. Good talk.
You too, man.
All right. Trader cult leader still doing trader shit. Elisa, divine, funny. But you're still going to do it again tomorrow, says Dick. Hey, real quick, I wanted to say before I go back to the box. Modern Colonizer, the previous caller there, friend of the program, I always like talking to him. He made a point to say that the debates tend to be useless because people who are in the camp for Trump are going to stay there and people who are in for Biden are going to... I disagree. And I'll tell you from my own personal aspect of this little tiny program I do here on this little tiny corner of social media, I get folks who write me all the time and send me personal emails and be like, you know what, you said what you said about this is right, or what I heard about this, or I checked in and found out about that, and you know what, I think this candidate, I've changed my mind on that candidate. Now, they could be lying to me. They could be being dishonest. I don't know. But these folks write me out of the blue. I don't ask the folks to write me about that. Now, I do ask folks when they have counterpoints or they come across something like the Durham report or something like that. I tell people, send me what you got. I'll look at it. And I do try to look at a lot of the information that comes in. Being on the left, you watch, CNN, MSNBC, you're not going to hear a lot of shit. Even Fox, you're not going to hear a lot of shit that's on OAN or Newsmax. Newsmax and OAN are further to the right than Fox. So a lot of my audience are watching those networks. So I do, send me what you got. But at the end of the day, there are folks who change their mind. Such as when I'm pointing out to a lot of African Americans about this person that you're saying the cops are wrong. No, that person was a justifiable shoot. I've had folks look at it and, okay, maybe this one the cops did do the right thing. And yeah, so it does change some minds, but yeah, in most cases, the folks, if they're in their corner, they're not going to change. But this is what we do in America. You have civil discourse, civil dialogue, and you never know what happens. We need to do more of it. Let me go to the artist Ray, I think. 8th grade vocabulary. Okay. Good evening. How are you there, sir?
I'm doing good. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Is this our first conversation?
Our first conversation. Caught you on my For
Good
You
to
page.
have you on.
So let's talk about it. I'm going to start with, I'm not on either side. I don't trust the Democrats or the Republicans. It's the same game.
Okay. Well, give me that term again. The Demo what?
The Democrats and the Republicans.
Okay. Straight out of Los Angeles. All right. Why do you have that mindset that neither side is trustworthy?
Because if you look at their history before anybody's in office and running, they all hang out together. They're all friends. Trump was friends with the Clintons. Trump was friends with the Bushes. He was friends with everybody before he became president. Same with the Bushes.
But wouldn't that be how you would get legislation done if everybody is not personally hating each other? Like Bill Clinton and Newt Gingrich worked together to balance the budget. What is his name? Joe Biden used to work with Lindsey Graham. They used to work and get things done. Don't you want them to have lunch together and stuff like that? Or do you want the Republicans and Democrats to actually hate each other in real life?
No, see, the difference is if I run a business, right? And I got people that do other jobs and other types of that job, different jobs that I need. I work with them because I know them, right?
Okay.
But
all right.
To sit here and say that these people are doing this just because they are kind people to each other is totally different. Like you said, it's just business. They're looking at it as just business. So whatever I can get from you is why I'm engaging with you. But that was just the start of it. So I want
you have to, at the end of the day, as a politician, you have to do what your constituents want. You can't get in there and do something that, even if you believe it's for the good of the country. Trump is a perfect example. He thought what he was doing was what the country needed to become great. If the voters don't want it, they're going to get rid of you. So you got to do what your constituents want, no matter how you feel about it.
Correct. That's why I don't trust neither one of them, because they're all got their own agenda that they're actually working towards and using the other people to get it done. That's why it doesn't matter who's in office. What matters is what we do in our lives. And that's why I'm focusing on your question. How would the GOP reduce inner city crime rates? The same way nobody can control the unemployment rate. You can't. You can't fix that. No party is going to be able to fix the inner city crime rates. You know why? Because it's in the individual to what life they choose. See, there's a misconception that in society, your moral values have to be mine.
Good point. So let me ask you this then. When you look at the inner city crime rates in 2022, they are far worse than they were in, say, 92 or 82. What happened? Did individual mentality just get worse for no reason at all? Why is the crime rate so bad now compared to years past? What changed?
So I don't see a difference in the inner city and in the outer city. There's no difference in the crime rates because I engage people from both sectors. I'm from the inner city. I live in the outer city. I know more people producing crime than I did in the inner city. And
what
I live in the outer
area? I'm curious, if you don't mind, what metro area are you in?
Right now, I'm in the Chattanooga metro area, Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Okay, all right, okay. And the surrounding areas of Chattanooga, they got drama out there like that?
Oh, Chattanooga, wow. Chattanooga, wow. Chattanooga's the murder capital for a couple of times too. Like you said, Gary, Indiana. Chattanooga was on that same list. You know what I'm saying? But
there ain't no strict gun law. Ain't no strict gun laws in Chattanooga. You can get whatever you want, right?
Well, you gotta go through a class to get your carrying permit. Other than that, I mean, if you got a clean record, you can go in and get a gun. But that's not the problem. See, all right. So I do construction. I work with a lot of guys. They come in, and the first signs I look for when I see employees and new people come in, I look for, what's your driving record? Do you got a driver's license? Do you got car insurance? You know what I'm saying? Because those are the basis of life that shows stability. If you don't have a driver's license and car insurance, then your life is most likely not going to be stable. 90% of the guys I got a guy that's 60 something years old, just had to let go. And I had a guy that's 23 years old. One was Caucasian, one was Mexican. Both of them had to let them go because they wouldn't show up to work. No president is going to fix them two guys showing up to work. Just like no president's going to fix them from having criminal backgrounds that's keeping them from getting driver's license. So to me,
when Trump says that the Biden presidency is leading to higher crime rates, you're saying that that's not true. He's talking out the side of his neck.
Talking outside of his neck because it has nothing to do with it. If you live within a lifestyle, right? Like that's why I said about moral values. If someone lives within a lifestyle that they are comfortable with, and that has to do with them selling drugs, whatever they feel like doing, they're going to do that no matter who's the president. And if that produces crime, then like the other dude said, the consequences, that means they have to care about the consequences. Some people don't care about going back and forth to jail and doing that little time and getting back out and living the same life they live. Just like some people don't care about being involved in the system and being a quote unquote good Samaritan and part of the system, like working a 9 to 5 and doing that. Some people don't care about that. That's not the life they want to live. So for you
I gotta say your answers are straight to the point. I guess what I would just ask you though is, 20, 30 years ago, inner city crime was not as bad as it is now. What happened?
20, 30 years ago. So I could go back to my time. So yeah, I'm 40 years old. So I could go back to the 90s and I can relive what's going on in the 90s and what's going on now. And now you have a society. Well, let's go back to the 90s. In the 90s, you had a society that was just coming off of, we were still deep in the crack era. You know what I'm saying? So you're talking about families that were starting to get destroyed. You know what I'm saying? You're talking about communities that were starting to get destroyed. Also, those same communities, if you've traveled like I've traveled, you've traveled a lot. So if you go through any city, you could find out that every hood used to be predominantly white or prosperous community. In every city, all the hoods that consider inner city, gang, whatever, bad neighborhoods were great neighborhoods. You know what I'm saying? Right. Quote unquote, great neighborhoods before they were bad neighborhoods. So true. In that time frame in the 90s, you had, like I said, families that were getting destroyed by the crack era, which quote unquote is the Reagan era. You know what I'm saying? That the government put the dope in the streets. That came from the government. They put it there. But,
you believe that? You believe that the government intentionally put crack on the streets for people to absorb, people to use?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Why would they do that? What was the purpose of it?
Money. They use the money to fund. See, you got me.
Listen, I'm kind of like an attorney on here. Let me just be candid with you. I don't normally ask a question I don't already know the answer. I'm agreeing with every fucking thing you said. I'm just letting you say it. So I'm going to ask you again, why did they do that?
Give me the name of the war. There was a war going on in one of the South American countries that they were literally trying to fund. The CIA literally shipped over cocaine, dropped it in the hood to give to the black people because they didn't want it put anywhere else. And then it turned into crack because somebody gave them the process. Same with the methamphetamines. Methamphetamines isn't something that you can just stumble across. You can't just make that. There ain't no hillbilly in the woods in his bathtub just going to stumble across methamphetamines. It's not happening because the process is so dangerous. One mistake and you could kill your whole family. So somebody had to sit somebody down and give them the exact method. the exact method to how to make it. And that's chemistry. And only people I know that had a direct line to the connection to the recipe for methamphetamines, because everybody knows where it came from, Hitler, is the Bush family.
Them are Bloods and Republic Crips. I don't have no rebuttal for what you're saying, man. I got to move it on. Nothing at all. Excellent talk, man. Come on back through. I don't have no rebuttal for anything you just said.
Word on,
Appreciate
brother.
you coming through, man.
We'll
no
talk
rebuttal.
it up.
Absolutely. I might have clipped you, but listen, come on back through anytime, man. Come on back through anytime. That's how it's done, folks. Okay, looking in the comments, sound like he watched Snowfall. That's a good, I actually watched that. I haven't seen the last season of it. I think season 4. It comes on with FX. Snowfall is that's one of the John Singleton, the late John Singleton. That is a good series. So, yeah, Snowfall, I do watch that. Have not watched Breaking Bad, and I know that's also a very successful series. I see VC Kemp put that in the comments. I have not watched that series, Breaking Bad. But let's go to Southern Woodworking. That was a good talk. That last caller there, that's just good shit. I'll just say that, just good shit. I enjoyed talking to him. Snowfall is about Freeway Rick Ross. Is it? Is that true? Because he does Vlad TV interviews for any of you guys who watch Vlad TV on YouTube. I don't know if he ever called out Snowfall, but it could be. Okay, it's about Rick Ross. All right, look at here. They seen the strength of colored communities was unbreaking and thriving, says Johnny number 5. So you're suggesting they use the drug game kind of like 1920s Black Wall Street issue where they seen African Americans or the minorities, I guess, becoming too successful and decided to implement the communities with crack to stifle that. Wow. I hope they didn't do this stuff. But yeah, if I had to speculate. Jay Yelton, you said old cockeye. I don't know what you're talking about, but okay. I'm not doubting there are people who don't want to work, but there's so many more who do but can't. This is what happens. But I agree with that. I hate the notion that everybody who's poor is just sitting around being lazy. No, we live in a capitalist society, and the disparity between rich and poor is growing. And it's not growing because the poor are not working. It's growing because the rich are gaming the system. Looking in the comments, let's go to Dana Bodana. Dana Bobana, did I say that right? I don't know what's going on with the box. I tried to bring Dana Bobana on, and it did not let me do it. So we will go to Dan Trail, friend. Let me see here. Conveniently, the war on drugs started right after Funny. I don't get that comment. You must have had a typo. Dan Trail, good evening.
Good evening.
What's up, my man? You see what's on the monitor behind me now. After that last caller, shit. But I'm going to ask you. The GOP suggested that they can reduce inner city crime rates, blaming Biden for the rise in crime. Do you believe the GOP could bring down crime rates in the inner cities?
Impossible. First of all, that's a misnomer because the simple fact that the president is federal and each inner city has a municipal government of its own. And their government.
Well, but to interrupt you, Trump stated that he wanted the federal government to be able to send in the National Guard to places like Chicago, irrespective of what the governor wanted. So he could go around the governor and send in the National Guard to protect Chicago. So when you say independent, little small police departments and things like that, he's talking about going around all of that.
Well, what you're going to do in that case, because the military works on a broad scope, is you're going to create a rebellion, just as when we go in to save other countries, whereas you'll have people that weren't criminals and weren't rebels before being mistreated, and then you'll create a bigger flashback, a bigger blowback. And
So what you're suggesting is the citizens would view the National Guard coming in there against their will as almost like occupiers.
yeah, they're not going to walk by and just say, hey, I know you're a criminal, so get over here. I know you're a criminal, so get over here. They're going to lock down the block. And people trying to go to work late at night are going to get searched with M16s and AR-14s in their faces. And that's not going to work.
Yeah. And, you know, crazy thing is, I talk to my right-winger folks, my beloved MAGA side of the audience, and they say all day, every day, they're for smaller government and states' rights. And when Trump said that, there was no pushback on that, because that goes against every states' rights belief there is. That's big government, what he's suggesting. And I didn't hear any pushback from them on that.
You know what? They're against big government if it's not their president or not their party doing it. If it's their party doing it, then they're okay with the government stepping in. But what would happen? Example? Yeah, well, examples are like when you actually say you don't want government coming in, infringing on your rights, telling you what you can own, telling where you can go and everything else, but you're okay with a government soldier standing outside of your house, waiting on you to come out, searching you, following you around, and everything else. I mean, come on now. I mean, I like, sometimes I think they live in cartoon land. For real. I'm like, okay, okay. All you have to do is send somebody in with guns and then with more guns, and it's going to stop everything that's going on. Man, I hope I don't get held for this, but I know there are hood people with the same thing that the Army have.
Yeah. Well, wasn't that little Wayne that said "N-word, we got Army guns" or something like that? I believe he said that in one of his songs. Yeah.
I literally remember walking into a house when I was 25 years old of a friend and seeing a launcher, and it threw my
I ain't seen no. I'm from the inner city of Chicago. I ain't never seen no shit like that. You see somebody with a rocket launcher in their crib?
No, but what it is that they're being lazy. They don't want to deal with the real policies. What's going on, and I won't go on a tangent. What's going on is it's called gentrification. It's a process. They under police these places, and they don't put funding in community centers and stuff in the inner city. They let the property go down, and then they come in and buy it. Just like Chicago. What they didn't report about was O Block. O Block is one of the most dangerous blocks in Chicago. They let that go down. It's in inner city Chicago.
Okay, I'm trying to think and I see you in the comments real quick. Grey Wolf said he had to go. Appreciate you rolling with us. Feel free, by the way, folks who are watching this, in addition to getting your boy up to 30,000 likes, tap the damn screen, but follow the program. This is what we typically do here. Everybody gets a chance to speak. O Block, what side of town is O Block on?
I think that's south side. I think that's south side, outside of Inglewood or something like that, in that area. But
okay, I know Inglewood. I used to own a building in Inglewood, but I'm trying to think, where's O Block at? What does that mean?
Well, it's a notorious group. I mean, it's a notorious gang infested area.
Oh, okay.
They under police, they let it go down, and now the city and developers are buying the land and going to shut it down exactly like they shut Cabrini Green down. And then they're gonna reinvest in it and bring people back in. See, that's the game. That's the game, and this has been perpetrated by not only Republicans but Democrats as well. See, we think that each party cares. No one cares. No one cares.
That's good. So, in other words, you're going to have ridiculous crime rates no matter who's in office.
Yeah, exactly. No one cares. What
about Obama? I got to throw Obama in there. Good old Obama. He's a black man. He's from Chicago. What about Obama? You think he cares about old black? And by the way, I've seen the comments. Bam Bam says 64th and 66, 64th in King Drive to 66. So I'm very familiar with where 64th and 66th and King Drive is. I lived off of 74th and Stony, so 66th and King Drive was almost walking distance from where I used to live at. So I know where that's at. Wow. But what about Obama? You think Obama cared about inner city crime in Chicago?
I think he cared, but unfortunately, I can't think of, and I'd have to look it up. I can't think of anything he did to fix it. And I'm not saying he didn't want to. Now, when he was a community organizer, he was more active then because that's what his station was. But when he got over in the White House, I'm not going to make an excuse. He didn't do
Well,
much
let me ask it to you
for
this way. Let's
Chicago.
say Obama, first black president, gets into the White House and he does begin doing everything he can to tackle inner city crime in Chicago. What are the chances? What are the chances his detractors and his critics would say, "We elected you as a president of America, not the
Right.
president of Chicago. You what you're doing is racist. You're putting your people over everybody else. We want you to run the country, not Chicago." Think any chance there would have been a chance of the people saying that?
Oh, I definitely understand that. I definitely think that. But more importantly, as I said about the previous two, Biden and Trump, uh, a president really doesn't have, it's too broad of a scope. A president, short of trying to send federal troops, a president really can't do anything in a municipal situation. And yes, because I guarantee you they would say that because I let people know about my Black Business Focus group that I belong to. And they told me, and we were, where we promote black businesses and everything else like that. And I was told I was racist for trying to pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps. So solutions are not really wanted. That people just really want to complain and point.
Yeah, and I agree with that, which is why I brought up the notion that if Obama tried to help Chicago, they would have said he was racist and trying to promote blacks over everybody else. But then when he didn't do it, they blamed him for not doing it. So it was a case. We're gonna complain if you help Chicago. We're gonna complain that you're neglecting the rest of the country. If you don't help Chicago, we're gonna complain that you didn't do anything for your own damn city. So I don't think that he could have won in that case, no matter what he did.
Yeah, no one. I always remember this. Someone always wants to have someone to look down at and point and say that's the guy that I'm better than. As long as we have that particular segment of our community, it's going to be hard to fix anything because they're going to shoot it back down, i.e., Black Wall Street, Greenwood, everything else.
Yeah, that's sad. That's real sad too. Yeah, because something. I look at the African American community in recent times. Steve Harvey, comedian Steve Harvey makes a point in suggesting that rap music, for all of the criticism that we receive for how the violent messages and the promotion of crime in rap music is responsible for more black millionaires than anything else. Athletics, education, sports. There's nothing more responsible for more wealth in the black community than rap music. And it's like, so what can you do if our number one good that we're promoting is viewed so negatively?
Well, see, here's what I say in the end. If we're going to get rid of, we're going to complain about how violent rap music is, we got to get rid of the horror movies. We got to get rid of the gangster movies. We got to get rid of anything that has to do with violence or else it's hypocritical. Because rap is an art, film is an art, stage art is art. So how you going to tell a guy he can't rap and make millions by talking about toting a gun, then you go get billions making a movie about a guy named Jigsaw who cuts up everybody? I mean, it doesn't make sense. It does not compute.
Yeah, I gotta admit that the shit that they do in some horror movies are worse than what any rapper could ever do. In fact, some of the most hardcore rappers, to punish folks, take their hits straight out of horror movies, chopping off legs and shit like that. So
see, that's the evidence that I'm talking. So I know you're gonna have long, and I'm gonna say this: how can you get on rappers about being gangster rappers, and most of their names come from gangster movies? Scarface, Capone, and people like that. They name themselves after the movies that they watched. So why not go to the source instead of complaining about these people who would normally be maybe doing something else, maybe in your house taking your TV set, but instead they're riding down the street with millions of dollars from just saying a word to a beat. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, I like that. I like that. I can't argue with you. I can't argue with you, Dantrell. It's always a pleasure, man. You know how we do it. Come on back through anytime. Good talk, man. Good talk. All right, moving on. Another interesting cover. Now, I normally get a lot of MAGA through here. Maybe this is the liberal hour. Nevertheless, I always welcome liberals, left wingers on the program too. But I generally get MAGA through this way. Maybe it's something in the air, so to speak. We're talking. What are we looking at? Between now, what is it, a little bit over a month before the midterms. What do you guys think, real quick, in the comments? You think there's going to be a red wave? You think that the Biden economy is hurting enough, or President Biden's, because his poll numbers have went back down again? You think he's hurting enough they're going to get a red wave, or do you believe the idea of Trump promoting all these candidates like Herschel Walker and some of these folks are going to neutralize the red wave, and if things might actually turn blue? Obviously, Roe versus Wade is a big concern. It's a hell of a lot of things going on. What do you guys think in the comments? MAGA is dropping like gnats, but right after you, Miss Bean says red wave. I don't know. I'm real curious. I believe that vote blue, vote for Beto. In Texas, Beto? Oh, man, I don't think Beto gonna pull it off in Texas. What about Stacey Abrams in Georgia? What do you think about that? Governor Kemp still looks strong, but what about Governor Kemp versus Stacey Abrams in Georgia? Even Ron DeSantis down there, who everybody expects to win, he has some competition down there in Florida. There's a lot of real interesting races going on around the country. Fetterman in Pennsylvania for Senate. I may actually do a live if I can get the folks to come roll with me on election night so we can call some of this shit when it's coming in. I may actually be on here talking to the folks so you guys can either gloat or repent on in November for the midterms. Upset Stacey Abrams. I don't know, Craig. I don't know if she's quite ready. I would love to see Stacey Abrams emerge victorious, but I don't know if Georgia's ready for it yet. You're talking about the gubernatorial run. But they did put in 2 Democratic senators. You pulling for Herschel. 2 words, hell no, user 1962 user guy. Herschel Walker, he's been incredibly dishonest. He said he was a police officer and lied about his college. I mean, just some of everything. Herschel Walker is a really bad candidate. I mean, he certainly isn't going to get much of the African-American vote. He's a bad candidate. No, I'm not a fan of Herschel Walker at all. Abbott is far worse. Guns, winter issues, autocracy. Well, Cubs 1952, in regards to Texas Governor Abbott, the things you're pointing out that you believe Abbott is worse in are coming from a liberal perspective. When you say Abbott is worse in regards to guns, Texas, the state of Texas is pretty pro-gun. So when Beto gets up there and yells, "You're damn right, we're going to take your AR-15s" and things like that, that's an Illinois comment. That don't work very well in Texas, and that's why he didn't do well the first time. And they're probably using that down there. I don't know. I don't think Beto can pull it off down there. Change is coming, says Elisa. Hopefully. I do believe that the red wave, if it does still persist, has gotten weaker. Roe versus Wade has probably been the biggest upset to the red wave. By far, it has been a huge upset. You can talk about $2 gas. You can talk about the economy. But when women have to choose between $2 gas and going to jail for murder, if they make a pro-choice decision, $2 gas is not a good selling point. It's just not a good selling point. And even up to and including the issue of where we're not taking away the rights, it's just going back to the states. Then you got Lindsey Graham up there talking about a federal abortion ban. You got Mike Pence that is hinting around to it. You got Mitch McConnell that said a national abortion ban is possible. I think the cards are on the table. You can point to the economy, and you might have a good point about Biden's economy hasn't been strong. But the notion that you're not trying to ban abortion, you're trying to return it back to the states and things like that. All of the top members of the Republican Party have thrown the cards on the table and made it clear that's not true. They are going for a federal abortion ban. Anybody that believes they're not, when you got the Senate Majority Leader in Mitch McConnell, the former Vice President in Mike Pence, and one of the most well-known senators in Lindsey Graham all coming out and admitting it, you'd have to be off your fucking rocker. The goal is a federal abortion ban. And then, of course, I had mentioned before on my program how the state of Missouri wants to pass a law that makes a embryo a resident of the state. So the minute a woman conceives, they consider that embryo growing inside of her a resident of the state of Missouri. So that if she leaves the state and goes to another state to have an abortion, like Illinois, where it's they have pro-choice rights in Illinois, the state of Missouri can hold her accountable for what happened to their resident that was growing inside of her when she was in Illinois. So that pregnant mom that crossed the Mississippi River and went into Illinois and had an abortion could come back home to Missouri and find out there's a warrant for her arrest because she harmed the resident of Missouri growing inside of her. That's an actual law they put on the book. So anybody telling you that they are not trying to do this on a national level is just lying to you. There's way more than enough evidence out there to show that that's not what they want to stop at. Let me go back to Dana Bobena in the comments. Appreciate you guys rolling with your boy. Dana Bobena, I tried to bring you on live again and it stopped me from doing it. We'll go to Callie. Haven't talked to Callie Alpha in a while. Callie, good evening to you.
Hello.
Hey, good. I haven't talked to you in a while. Welcome back to the program.
I
What's on
know.
your mind this evening?
I
It's always good to have you back, though.
good to see you. So obviously, I've been picking at some of your comments and picking at some of your yes, but again, we have a normal debate. So
Absolutely.
you talk about how your thing right now is about the federal ban of abortions, right? But
Yes.
the whole purpose, like I see this contradiction here because the whole purpose of it going back to the states is so there cannot be a federal ban.
So what was Lindsey Graham talking about?
So he's talking these Republicans, you're right, they're digging their own graves, right? They're digging their graves in their states for re-election, but it means absolutely nothing because the Supreme Court already said this is not a federal
but
this is not a
Callie,
federal opinion. So
but
they can say
Callie, the
go ahead,
Supreme
go ahead,
Court
go ahead.
also,
I'm
the
curious.
Supreme Court. Oh, I'm sorry about that. The Supreme
No.
Court also, the three justices that Trump appointed, Kavanaugh and the other, I can't think of the woman's name, but they all said that Roe versus Wade was already decided legislation when they were actually up looking to be appointed or whatever. So the Supreme Court doesn't always tell the truth. I'm just going to say that. So when you say the Supreme Court said this or that, when you look at what they said when they were being interviewed for that position, they're not always honest. Comey Barrett, yeah, that's it. They're not always honest.
I agree with that. I agree with that. But also agree that the fact that they're supposedly, quote unquote, okay, it's like this big sick game that they're playing, right? So the Supreme Court, this is a supposedly, or it is a Republican ran Supreme Court, right? More Republicans than Democrats. So
a lot more.
They're putting it back to the states, and now you have all these Republicans coming out saying we're going to do this federal thing. Well, it can't be federal unless the Supreme Court thinks it's logical or by law, right?
No, I don't think that's totally true because Biden has already stated that if we win, if he can get a couple more senators, he's going to codify abortion rights. So if Biden can codify abortion rights, why couldn't enough senators, Republican senators, do the opposite? I mean,
so with the codifying, with the Democrats have ran things in the House and the Congress for
Okay.
in and out for a long time. Why have they not done it prior to this?
Because
Until there was an issue.
Yeah.
Now they're saying, "Oh, this is evil. This is wrong." But why have they not done it prior to then?
Well,
Common sense, great.
No, I
Common
agree.
sense.
I agree. Ruth Bader Ginsburg said exactly what you're saying is that they should have, but in reality, they believed that what has been ruled on already, that the Supreme Court would not go back to that. And like I pointed out earlier in our conversation, the Supreme Court led them to believe that they were right about that. Is that what we've already ruled on? We're not going to go back
reading
to.
the law, right? Who's interpreting the law is the difference.
Yeah, but the Supreme Court justices themselves, when they were seeking appointment, also made it seem like we're not going to go back on something that has already been ruled on, and they were lying about it.
I don't know if they necessarily went back on it or just literally they didn't say that this is not right, but that it should go back to the people. I don't know that that's necessarily wrong.
They overturned something that was clearly ruled. And what do you mean? You said you don't think they went back on it? They overturned Roe versus Wade. That Roe versus Wade was ruled on, and they went back and overturned it. So they clearly.
I can't argue with that. I can't argue with that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and that's what I'm saying is that when you ask a legitimate question in regards to why did they not codify abortion rights sooner, and I agree that's a legitimate question, but yeah, when you got the Supreme Court making it seem like they do not go back on old precedents, you don't think it's something you really have to worry about. But they have now shown us that if you don't codify stuff, it could be fair games. And that's why you got a lot of LGBT folks and a lot of interracial marriage folks saying that, well, our rights are not in the Constitution either. They may come after this stuff.
I see that. I see that too. I think honestly what these far right Republicans are doing is complete bullshit. But in terms of like what they're talking about in terms of, abortion in general, I've got my own opinions on that. I really don't have an opinion, but I can't remember which Republican was talking about even sniffing around the same-sex marriage crap.
There's a lot of people who want. I would dare say, if they rolled back same-sex marriage rights, there is more support in America for getting rid of that than there is for getting rid of abortion rights. I believe in America.
I don't think so.
I definitely do. I definitely think that. I think they said like 70% of Americans are in favor of women having the right to choose to some level, whether it's rape and incest or up to like the very first trimester or something like that.
Yes.
There's more people in favor of that.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, but when it comes to rolling back same-sex marriage rights, I think that there's far less support for same-sex marriage rights than there are for pro-choice rights. I don't think the outcry would be as strong if you roll back LGBT rights versus because rolling back Roe versus Wade affects every single fertile woman in the country. It affects every one of them. Whereas the LGBT rights affect a very small segment of the population. That's why I think it's a big difference.
I think it's such a thing that we shouldn't even
and if a guy marries his boyfriend, you're not looking at a murder rap. They're talking about throwing these pro-choice women and doctors in jail for murder and shit like that. It's pretty heavy what they're talking about doing to
them.
Yeah. But I agree with you. I agree with what you said earlier in our conversation that whatever chances there are for a red wave, this does not help the Republican Party. This Roe versus Wade stuff. Trump said that too.
Not.
Yeah, President Trump said that too. Because without Roe versus Wade, you can talk about the economy and Biden all day long, but with women facing murder charges, that $2 gas don't sound that great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I see in the comments somebody said, but she's still going to vote red. Didn't Cal? He's talking about you there, Cal. He said, but you still go vote red.
That doesn't hurt my feelings, trust me.
Fair enough. All right, Cal. Well, it's good to hear from you again. We haven't talked in a while, so definitely good to hear from you again.
It's been a while. You're still the man. Even if we don't agree on everything, you're still the man.
Absolutely. Hey, you're the gal. Come on back through anytime. Don't be a stranger.
All right.
Hey, all right, have a good one. Okay, looking in the comments, what affects you affect everyone else says they call me Trump. I don't know how I would look at that. I mean, I am of age. I'm not looking to have children ever again. So pro-choice, pro-life decisions are outside the scope of anything I'm going to have to deal with. However, I can't consciously back throwing a woman that was sexually assaulted or just who simply wasn't ready to have a child in jail for murder. Even though it won't affect me because I'm not going to have children anymore, but I can't consciously support that. And I've said earlier in this broadcast, when we weren't even talking about abortion, we already locked people up for too much shit. Too many folks are in jail for nonviolent crimes. I guess if you had an abortion because that's murder, that would be considered a violent crime. So she's not only going to go to prison for murder, she's going to go to a super max, because she's a murderer. So I just can't, I hate to even laugh at it, but it's horrible. It's horrible what would be in store for these females. And then I've had debates with folks who have kind of made it clear what the whole goal is, and that is we need more human beings, whether we need more Caucasians. I had your boy Snacks on here who said African American community would be better off in terms of being a minority if we had more African Americans, and that was his reason for banning abortion. But I've heard several folks, particularly men, suggest that their reasoning for banning abortion is something that benefits them, that they think is beneficial to them of their race. And my response has always been, you can't use somebody else as an incubator to fit your goals. You can't tell a stranger woman what to do with her body because you think it'll be beneficial to you. And that's what all of these folks have been saying. And women don't like it. The women don't like it. Now, that's not to say that there are not some women, like I believe the governor in South Dakota, that's pro-life. There are some women out there that are staunch pro-life supporters, but for the most part, it's guys. For the most part, it's dudes that are of age where they're like myself, where they're not going to have to worry about being involved in a pro-life, pro-choice decision. I guess I would look at President Trump. We talk about him on the program all the time. 4 wives, multiple divorces, mistresses, porn stars. You think that guy ain't never used a pro-choice decision? You think he ain't never slid a chick a few $100s and told her to shut the fuck up? You think that he would have been during his days at the Playboy Mansion? And Trump has had a lot of ass, as they say, more ass than a toilet seat. You think Trump in his 20s, 30s, riding around on yachts, billionaire with all the money in the world, would have been in favor of banning abortion when he was banging all those chicks? You really think he was in favor of that back then? Yeah, when you 70 years old and married, yeah, it's easy to say you're pro-life now. He's not even very religious. You really think that Trump, when he was hanging around with Hugh Hefner at the Playboy Mansion and banging all those chicks, you think if Stormy Daniels had sent him a sonogram and said she was in the family way because she claimed he didn't wear anything? You think that if Stormy Daniels had told him she was pregnant, he would have been pro-life? Really? Let me go back to the box before y'all make me crack up. Okay, old timers. Here we have MAGA, old timer, friend of the program.
Don't MAGA me.
Good evening, old timer. What's
Not
up?
much, brother. Don't MAGA me.
You in the Trump camp, right? Did I miss something?
No, I voted for him once.
Okay, only once. Okay, only once.
But
what do you think?
I confess up.
Go ahead.
Confess up and say I didn't do my due diligence and investigation when I cast that one. So I went on.
Oh, damn. So what have you found out since voting for Trump that has made you not necessarily not necessarily in the camp to see him back again?
Well, I was led to believe that his success didn't have anything to do with his dad. It was just smart business, and smart business is what I voted for him for.
Well, he said he
Then
took $1 million loan and turned it into 15 billion. You don't believe that?
Well, smart business wouldn't be in so many failed ventures. He might have taken $1 million and turned it into 15 million, but how much did he lose in the other not so smart ventures?
Okay, I don't know. I gotta say this: if he only, I mean, getting $1 million loan from your dad is that's nothing to shake a stick at. Hell, I wish my dad could have did that. But I will say this: if he turned $1 million loan from his dad into what he has now, even with the Atlantic City Casino and Trump University and some of these failed locations, I still got to say he's an incredibly successful businessman. If that's all he started out with is $1 million, and he's been able to do what he's did. Yeah, go ahead.
I didn't say he wasn't successful as a businessman. I just said I didn't look in and see that he had so many failed ventures.
Well, if you got as many eyes in the fire as Trump has, you're not going to succeed in all of them. I mean, how many properties and businesses and hotels and golf courses? And the guy has a ton of shit. Some of them failed, but he had a lot of shit going on.
He does. But I just remember several times when I guess the Republican Party was hunting for him and they had control of the House and Senate. In the past, he was on several subpoenas up there trying to explain business dealings to Congress at one time. It seemed like his subpoenas were, prior to him even considering running for office.
Trump has faced a lot of legal troubles, and I agree with that. Trump has faced a lot of legal troubles, and I would wonder, knowing the amount of skeletons he had in his closet, I wonder why he chose to run. If Trump had not ran for office, none of this stuff would ever came up. He would have went down in history as a well-liked celebrity, loved by the African American community, and his name, the Trump name, would have still been incredibly well respected. By him running for office and all of this stuff coming up, he's destroyed a lot of his legacy is going to be horrible.
Well, probably. But
think there'll ever be a USS Trump?
Nobody's ever known for the good they did. They're just remembered for the one bad thing they did. But in Trump's case, he's got a lot of skeletons, like you said, a graveyard. And
I think if he had not ran for office, he would have definitely his family name and all of that would have been way better. Now, his businesses, a lot of people don't even want to be seen at a Trump hotel or on a Trump golf course. He's real. And that's going to be that way for the rest of his life. If they do give him a presidential library, my guess is that place will be viewed like a Confederate statue. It's just really totally changed his outlook in terms of his legacy.
It could be, and I didn't mean to get off on the Trump tangent because you called me a MAGA. I was looking at
right now in 2020. MAGA is not an insult. MAGA's welcome on the program. I don't know what MAGA will be viewed like in 2050, but right now MAGA is not an insult. But the question I'm asking, we'll go with what's behind me. Do you believe the GOP can reduce inner city crime rates?
No, I don't believe either party wants to reduce them.
You don't think they want to reduce crime rates?
No, I don't.
Why not?
Because they use crime rate as a cloak for public safety to get regulation and bill passed that shouldn't be passed.
Give me some examples of it. You got any examples of a bill that was passed?
Oh, yeah. Just here recently, they call it they're a so-called assault pew-pew ban. They use the guise of public safety to get things like that passed. Here in the 60s, they had a little supposed scare epidemic of a virus that was going around. So they used it as a public scare to vaccinate millions of people against their will. They did it.
Well, let's talk about in regards to the pew pew ban. The numbers, now you may not agree with this, but I'll run it by you and see what you have to say. But the numbers suggest that when they had an assault rifle ban, mass casualty events went down. And what do you think about that?
Well, I disagree with it. The assault rifle ban is going to show the results desired by the people or organizations paying for it, just like any statistic poll does. I mean, you got to think of where it came from. It stemmed off the Brady bill. It stemmed off the Brady bill, and Brady was he was popped with a .22 pistol. Didn't have anything to do with the assault, but they tallied it up and rolled it over to the guise of public safety.
Well, let me ask it to you this way: Do you believe there is an uptick in homicides using those type of weapons? Do you think as time has progressed, because the assault rifles ban expired under President Bush, so from the time it expired under President Bush to right now under President Biden, do you believe crimes committed with those weapons has seen an uptick?
No, because the majority of them are still committed with handgun, an overwhelming majority, or they're considered, committed with knives or bats. I think that the media is kind of like as tragic as it is, kind of like an airplane crash. Light general aviation aircraft, they go down every day, but you don't hear about it, kind of like car wrecks. But when the media gets a hold of an airliner that had 300 people on it, then it's a great big old huge story because there's 301 place at one time. So like the Las Vegas, that was several people in one place at one time. It got a whole lot more explosive media attention than what it should have gotten, and it caused a whole lot more increase of firearm sales.
Well, when you look at what happened in Las Vegas, you're talking about the Mandalay Bay where the guy had an unlimited amount of AR-15s in his rooms, apparently with bump stocks and things like that. You think he could have? You think he could have implemented that same crime with pistols?
Could he have implemented the same crime with? Yeah, but he would have had to been closer. I mean, you've got to understand is all of those. He was legal to purchase all of those. He just, there's no amount of bans or anything that's going to prevent that from happening if they're law-abiding legal citizens that just snap one day. It's
but that's the thing. I don't know if a guy walks into a shop and he wants to buy 10 AR-15s at the same time, even though he has no criminal records, you don't think that should be a cause for alarm at all?
Well, that'll flag. That'll flag. Even back then, it'll flag. Now it's up to the FBI in the background check whether or not they approve the sale to the gun shop or the firearm shop. But
if he has no criminal record, I don't have a criminal record at all. If I want to buy 10, it'll flag. But what is the flag going to? I mean, what are they going to do? Okay, they know I want to buy 10 ARs. They run my background check. There's nothing there. I don't have anything. So yeah, it flagged. But at the end of the day, I'm going to get those weapons, right?
No, not necessarily at the end of the day. Okay, when it flags, you purchase more than 2 firearms at a time, and it has been this way for years and years and years. You'll get on a hold. They'll put it on a hold before they authorize the sale, and they have 20, depending on what state it is, 24 to 48 hours to approve it. Or if you don't hear back from them, then it's considered approved.
With me having no criminal background check, no criminal history, no mental health issue, what would make them not sell it to me?
That's where they put it on hold. They go in and they start checking.
Yeah. They got it on hold.
Social media accounts and see if there's anything you said, and they'll actually also check and find out if it's a sale going on. If it's a sale going on, and you're looking to capitalize, they can put it on hold or deny because they don't know that you're going to keep all of them. You might want to, buy them and sell them out of your house or whatever on a private sale.
So what if
and make a little money on them?
What if instead of buying 10 at once, what if I purchase 2 per week? Would that be flagged?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm asking this out of a position of ignorance. I've never purchased it. I mean, I have pictures, but I don't know anything about this.
two or more from an authorized firearms dealer in the same purchase, flags.
So if I buy two
or more,
so if I buy two, I can be flagged.
Yeah.
Okay.
You buy two
So
or more in a single purchase, they'll flag it.
Okay, but what about somebody says not in Missouri? What if I space them out a little bit to avoid the flags? Can that be done?
Yeah, it can be. Some states they'll FBI will flag some states for in excess of purchase over a given week or in excess of purchase over a given month. If you're buying 3 or 4 a month, they may flag it depending on the state, and they go by whatever statistics they go by. It may not have anything in the world to do with you
Yeah, because
personally.
I see a lot of folks in the comments. A lot of folks in the comments are saying they don't do that in their state, and folks are saying not in most states. I mean, I probably in Illinois. I'm originally born and raised in Illinois, so I know Illinois would flag it. But in Texas, you really think they would be placing limits like that on buying firearms? Texas seems like or Arizona. You think they'd place those kind of limits?
Well, in Arizona, I know they did because I lived out there. And Texas is where I grew up, so I know they do it there. And in Oklahoma is where I live now, and they do it here.
Okay, all right. Like I said, I'm admitting ignorance on this. I've never tried to purchase a long rifle.
It's not a problem. And, the gun show, they call it a gun show loophole. The thing about the gun show is if you go to a reputable dealer, they're going to flag you because the reputable dealer that's there is going to do your background investigation. Now, what's going on at a gun show is that anybody can buy a booth. And if you're not an FFL, you can go do what's called private sales, which would just be like you met somebody that wanted to buy one, and instead of meeting at the convenience store to exchange it, you just met at the location of the gun show.
And that would be the loophole then. It's basically cash and carry, where I can just go meet somebody at a gun show. Yeah. So in other words, there is a loophole there.
Yeah, but not for the actual FFL dealers, because the actual FFL dealers have to run the background checks and stuff.
Yeah, but if I'm trying to buy a gun utilizing the loophole, I'll just avoid the FFL dealers. I mean, you're making it clear. You just go up to a guy who in that sale utilizing a loophole is 100% legal, right?
Yes, but you have to wonder, if you're just looking for a pew pew, it's easy to get. You're always going to be able to get one. Hell, you can make one for less than $100 by walking into Lowe's.
Yeah, but you don't want to throw your hands in the air and say, well, since there'll always be to get one, I'm not going to do anything to enforce it. I mean, it's like saying,
yeah, I know. That's the same as, I feel the same way. If you're not a licensed plumber and you go into Lowe's and you buy 200 1-foot sections of pipe with end caps,
right?
That should raise some flags.
Well, we don't have a pipe bomb problem in this country like we do guns, though. You're not getting.
No, but we did. We did. They were demolishing abortion clinics and stuff with them for a while. They found some at the January 6th whatever thing it was.
Yeah, and what? I kind of wonder if they end up if the Democrats get a few extra senators, and there are some folks who believe that may happen despite the red wave predictions. If we get a few more Democrats on the Democratic side, and they codify Roe versus Wade, you might see some of those pipes you're talking about. That I do believe that could happen, especially if the Democrats go too far to the left with it, like second and third trimester stuff. You could see that. You could see that. Yeah, I'll give you the last word. I got to move it on, old timer.
You could see that if somebody saw something they didn't like on their local news in the morning, or their coffee didn't taste right. But no, I don't think that as far as your sign there with the GOP reduce inner city crime, I don't think either side of the aisle wants to reduce inner city crime. They talk a big game, but at the end of the day,
when Trump is blaming Biden for rising crime rates, I mean, are you saying he's talking outside of his, talking on the side of his neck that he wouldn't do anything about it either?
Well, he didn't. I mean, crime rate's been on the rise. It just goes with population. The higher your population and the more dense the population is and the wealthier an area is, the more crime that comes into it. And as they say, misery loves company, so does wealth. Success loves success. So if you surround yourself with success, and in that area, that demographic starts having an increase of gross household income, you increase the crime rate in that area, because for everybody that's successful, there are those that are unsuccessful that believe they're old and they just won't. So they just tend to take.
Well, as the rapper P. Diddy once said, more money, more problems. Old timer, got to move it on, man. Appreciate you coming through.
Hey, have a good one, brother.
You too. Good talk. Look at the comments. Thank you. 85 million more people in the USA than in 1990. That could. So in other words, you're suggesting, and this is in the comments, what is that? Says Steph God or something. You're suggesting that because the population density of the United States has increased, meaning there are 85 more million citizens in this country than there were in 1990, that might have something to do with the crime rate. If that is the case, and I'm pleading ignorance once again, I don't know if rising citizenry leads to higher crime rates, but yeah, it makes sense that could be the case. But if that is the case, and folks are for letting immigrants in, that is an increase of population. Certainly down in Texas, California, Arizona, and New Mexico, these states that border the country of Mexico, they are going to see a rise in population of their urban areas. Houston, Dallas, Arizona, Santa Fe, New Mexico, Albuquerque, San Diego, all of these places are going to see a rise in population. So your point that more people leads to more crime might have a little bit to do with why these folks, my beloved MAGA folks, are suggesting that there could be some crime repercussions of letting folks in. Do we vet immigrants anymore? I don't know if it's possible in some cases. Some of these folks come over here with nothing. So I suppose you could ask them their name and run a criminal background check through the country of origin, assuming that country has their information. But in some cases, I don't know if you can. If it's like Venezuela, where they're dealing with multiple coup attempts and things like that, it would almost be like a slave escaping to Canada during the American slave trade. No different than fleeing the cartel. I'm not fleeing the cartel. I'm fleeing white people. Same shit. I get to Canada and they want to do what you're suggesting, a background check. How are you going to do that? They don't even want to tell you that they were actually keeping me as a slave unless you're going to turn my ass back to them. They're not even going to tell you that. How could you do a background check? Well, the same thing probably applies in Venezuela. If they're running from government coups and things like that, you're not going to get many records. And by the way, ever since Hugo Chavez under the Bush administration, we don't have a good relationship with Venezuela. So you're probably not going to get any background check from Venezuela. You could get one from Mexico, but some of those countries down there, you're not going to get a background check even if you did try to run it. They don't have any paperwork because they've been walking barefoot for the last 1,100 miles. So they're not walking around with Interpol fingerprints and shit like that. And you call their country of origin and they're just glad the person ain't coming back. So I don't know if you can do that, but you can try, I suppose. Looking in the comments, we used to fight and make up. No guns, no parents, no problem. That is true. That is true. I got in fights as a kid. Somebody pushed you or something like that. You guys fought it out. In fact, to be honest with you, I even had parents my dad would go out there and hit them back. You go out there and fight and, all right, now shake hands. And y'all squash this shit. And that's how it would be. Nowadays, you're getting, 14, 15 years old. Somebody is running and grab a pistol out of their backpack. Is the argument that guns are too readily available? Or is it the mentality of the people? I don't know. I'm going to leave that one up to you guys but there's no doubt that people grab guns and shoot faster. There's no doubt about that. It is a lot easier to get shot in 2022 than it was in 1982 for the same offense. And that doesn't just apply to the citizens. That also applies to the cops. A lot of shit you could do in the 1980s, driving without a license, DUI, the cops didn't fuck with you that much. You got a DUI, they took your keys and threw them in the grass and told your ass to walk home. Now you going to jail. Same thing with driving without a license and a host of other things. You go to jail for far more violations than you did back in the day. And of course, you get shot more. You know, a lot of police walk up to the car prepared for the worst. So they have an us against them mentality as well. I don't know what has changed, but I will suggest to you, being a former immigrant in Australia, I used to live in Australia, been pulled over there, and you can notice how much more relaxed the police are. Australia is majority white as well. And in fact, I lived in Brisbane, a town that is overwhelmingly white. And I got pulled over and I didn't see any racism or anything because they know you don't have a gun. You can talk about if you get rid of guns, folks will find another way, bombs, knives, whatever. The police are not afraid of pulling somebody over and having them throw a bomb out the window. If you got a knife and he has a gun, he has the advantage. So I can tell you one group in society that would feel a lot safer if we didn't have guns, and that is the police, because they would still have guns. They would not fear the type of shit they fear now. Yeah, you might have a knife on them, whatever. All you gotta do is take a few steps back, and I can be ready for that. And ain't nobody gonna be going around throwing bombs at people. So the gun element with the police is a lot to fear. And it's not surprising to hear police say that, yeah, we need to do something about all the guns. But that's a different argument. Listen, folks, I do unfortunately got to wrap the live up. Got to get up in the morning, pull myself up by my bootstraps like everyone else. As I always say in every broadcast, you can be anywhere you want on social media. And the fact that you're here rolling with your boy, it's always an honor talking to you folks. 34,000 likes, real close to 35,000. That would have been nice, but I'm not hating on 34. By the way, there's a lot of liberals in here tonight. I'm surprised. I even got my boy OK Oldtimer, the last caller there, who certainly supported Trump. Even he's suggesting that, he's kind of believe he's seeing error of his ways. And so it's not uncommon for me to get MAGA on here as time is going on and hear folks suggest, yeah, I voted for Trump twice, but I don't think he's the best person moving forward. It's weird, but the polls are showing that a lot of my right-wing folks are indeed turning away from Trump. Not like the Democrats are turning away from Biden. I think the unfavorable numbers for Biden are even higher than Trump. But folks are starting to turn away. Jeff, real quick, I got 5 minutes for you. I do got to wrap it up shortly.
I'm going to keep it short for you, brother. I'm going to keep it short.
Okay.
I live here in Texas, and if you have a hard time understanding me, I just got done doing a bunch of oral surgery, so if you need me to repeat something, ask me. I will repeat it. Here in Texas, I will tell you, you can go to any one of these damn gun shows, and you can go from booth to booth to booth. And as long as you got the cash, you can dash.
So you're speaking totally opposite of what my previous caller said and making it clear that is a big ass loophole.
I'm in Dallas Fort Worth, brother. I mean, I see it all the time. I come from a family of immigrants. My family, they all served in the Marine Corps. And
might I ask what your country? Might I ask what your family's country of origin was?
Italy and Ireland.
Okay.
1901, my great-great-grandparents came through Ellis Island.
Okay. And what are the chances? What are the chances they receive very similar treatment to folks trying to get over here to the country now?
Oh, the same kind of shit. And the reason why is, like, when I look at photos of my family, and when they spent almost a year in Ellis Island, they were forced to physically live across, quote unquote, the railroad tracks. They were forced to live in a home that was heated by coal.
Oh,
They
yeah,
had
it's hard.
a 2-hole privy in the back.
Let me, being in Texas, okay, because Elisa in the comments said the gun stores are just as busy as the grocery store. Do you see something like that down there?
That comment is as serious as syphilis.
Damn, that's pretty fucking serious. You didn't have to go there. That's pretty fucking serious. Okay, all right. So you do see that. Wow.
And I will tell you, I'm very stoic and I'm very John Wayne-ish, and and people would never ever take me as a gay man. I have seen in this state, especially in the LGBT community, the African American, the Hispanic community getting beat down on by the police department.
Dallas Fort Worth, huh?
Oh yeah.
For a very short time, I used to live in Dallas off of 75 and Royal Lane. I was working
North
for
Dallas.
Yeah, I worked for up there, 'cause up in Richardson. It was a telecom corridor. I used to work as an engineer for Alcatel. I thought it was a pretty nice city, but I mean that was back in the late '90s. So
30 years ago when I first moved here, and I mean, I was dating this black man, and he went into Grand Prairie. You know where Grand Prairie is?
Yeah.
Yeah. And he had an incident. And let me tell you, I mean, it is driving why black. And I don't care where you're at, there are still racist fucking cops out there that if they see a pride sticker or they see a black person, you are driving while black.
Well,
and most of, I've got a lot of my friends.
Out of all those suburbs down there, Mesquite, Rowlett, and Duncanville and things, what are some of the suburbs that you believe have that type of reputation of places you probably better off not going to if you're a minority?
Like Waxahachie and those southern areas, because you are surrounded like John Wayne at the Alamo with a bunch of Bible banging Baptist motherfuckers. And I hate to put it that way, but I mean, they are what they are. I mean,
yeah. Wow. So real quick, in regards to the question I got before I move on and before I let you go, do you think the GOP could reduce inner city crime?
I think either one of them could reduce it if they had the help from each other. And neither one of them wants to help each other. They all want to sit there and go, "Oh, it's all about me," and it's all about Mitch McConnell.
You talking about lack of unity, division? Yeah. I can see that. Beto, what do you think about your boy Beto O'Rourke down there? You support her?
Oh God, and let me tell you, I mean, I put the first sign in my neighborhood up, and then I started to see my neighbors start to put signs up. And one of my neighbors came up and knocked on my door and said, "I'm glad to see someone had the balls to put a sign up." And I said, "I don't give a fuck what other people do. They don't pay my bills. They don't suck my dick. My husband does. So, I ain't got time for you."
All right, fair enough. I gotta go, Jeff.
I hate to be graphic, but I have seen so many Beto signs go up and down, and I think you will see something that you never expected, and a lot of it has to do with women and the abortion. And
you think Beto O'Rourke has you think he has a decent chance in Texas, huh?
Oh yeah, and here, I mean, with me, I'm in part of the whole LGBT community. I've got 5,000 friends here in Dallas Fort Worth.
Okay.
They know what they're coming after next, and that is us.
Yeah, and you're not the only one that suggested that. All right, Jeff, I gotta drop it for
Brother,
now. Appreciate you coming. Is this our first time talking?
this is our first time talking, brother, but hey, you have yourself a good evening. And, you know, if you ever want to have a conversation, I'll be more than happy to. But, you know, at the end
Absolutely,
of the day, you know, I mean, I just
absolutely.
wanted to share a little bit with you. I mean, because I mean, a lot of people, if you're not living here, you don't understand what these people actually think.
I
So,
understand. Fair enough. Well, I
hey,
appreciate you giving me
you have a
your
good evening. I'll
perspective.
let you get ready to go to bed.
Yep, sure am. Anytime you see me on, man, go ahead and jump in. I'll definitely put you on. Good talk. Appreciate you coming through.
Yep.
As promised, I do got to wrap this shit up. Guys, appreciate you guys rolling with me. I will catch you tomorrow. By the way, follow the channel. If you guys are new here, just like my previous caller, show your boy some love. Follow the channel. Helps out my algorithms. Doesn't cost you any damn thing. And it's a win-win for both of us. I don't ban, I don't censor, I don't block. Put you in the box, let you get your point across. And if I don't agree with it, who gives a damn? It's how you feel. You're entitled to that. I always preserve and protect the First Amendment on these broadcasts. Catch you later. Have a good night.